Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. It's Monday, but it's still fun day because we like to get together as a group and talk about movies, but we have a purpose. It's a difficult purpose, but it's a purpose nonetheless because we're trying to find one movie to define each state in the United States. And if you think that right before we recorded, we had to sit down with a map and start noting down the states we haven't done yet, you'd be right, because honestly, we've just been bouncing around the states, and this week we've landed on Rhode Island, the teeny tiniest littlest state in America, the little engine that toot could. And we're all on board this train as we try to figure out which one's the best. I couldn't do it alone though. My name is Ollie Pettigrew. I love movies. I've hosted movie shows, but to be honest, movies are just my passion. It's what I do to relax, much like my two amazing co-hosts who love movies even more than I do. We'll welcome them back. Ryan Sandler, welcome back to the show.
Oh man, I too like to enjoy the usual movie, but this week was incredibly stressful as watching these three. I think it's important to point out to our listeners that while other podcasts may just talk about one movie, it's important to point out that we watch 3 movies every week.
Yes, yeah. I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning this morning watching one of our movies because my plans went a little awry and because Will forgot when his birthday was.
Sure. Yeah,
it's true.
As you do.
That's not a joke.
So first of all, happy birthday, Will. And two, Will Hirsch, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Thank you so much. I would like to read a prepared statement in regards to the movie I picked. Okay. My apologies to Marlon Wayans. On January 7th, 2024, I, Will Hirsch, lobbed numerous insults to the character and comedic talents of one Damian Wayans in regards to his performance in Major Pain. I would like to now apologize for these statements. For these comments were made when I was younger and much more ignorant. Watching Osmosis Jones has left my world destroyed, broken me physically, and left my mind shattered in a way that I cannot, in all likelihood, be repaired. And sorry, I wrote this with ChatGPT and it threw in an ad break. I'm just going to read it. Hey kids, are mom and dad fighting again? Sucks, right? Well, here's something that doesn't suck. Trix cereal. Enjoy those smacks of fruity goodness with each bite and forget about the smacks coming from the other room. Use promo code MovieTrix for 10% off your next shipment of cereal. Trix cereal. We killed that rabbit. And then back to my statement. Anyway, dear Mr. Wayans, please accept my apologies. Your talents will shine for decades to come. Thank you for not making Osmosis Jones. That is the end of my statement there. Sorry, and once again, ChatGPT, I don't know why it threw in an ad break. It was a short statement, but that's the future, everybody. That's what's going to replace writers. So
we're going to have to start doing this every episode.
Yeah, we're just Will having to apologize for everyone's disparage.
Next week, Will's going to apologize. Yeah, next week, Will's going to apologize for the previous week's movie.
Well, as you heard in Will's prepared statement, man, the back of my head's already hurting from laughing. That one of the movies that we're doing this week is Osmosis Jones. Now, what's interesting about this week is very often when it comes to picking movies, we kind of get on the chat thread and go, oh, I'm going to do this movie, and oh, I'm going to do this. We kind of just found these 3 movies and just decided to do them, but no one really claimed any of them.
Yeah, we tried to distance ourselves from all 3 of these picks.
Yeah,
I disagree. I mean, I thought
one of them I think is a banger.
There's, I think 2 are bangers. I think I can defend one of them, but I'm definitely open to your criticism of it. But I thought it was a bonkers watch again this week. But yeah, so Osmosis Jones is the one that I guess Will's claiming. It's in part directed by the Farrelly brothers, and also Piet Kroon and Tom Sito, because it is an animated movie and a live-action movie. It's basically, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, same level. Yeah. But it's got Chris Rock, Lawrence Fishburne killing it, David Hyde Pierce, Brandy, William Shatner, but it's also got Bill Murray, Molly Shannon, Chris Elliott in the live-action stuff, which is it's a movie that is for nobody.
Yeah,
what is the target market of this movie?
Fascinating watch.
It is. What I like about it is a full-on swing for the fences. As a premise, they just go all in. They just
and miss every time.
Yeah, it could not be a bigger miss.
Well, I would disagree. Okay, now, so the Farrelly brothers are credited with directing the live action stuff, which I think bring on the criticism. And many of the criticisms from the critics came from that the live action stuff was just relying too much on gross out humor, and it just seemed a bit lazy. We can't argue with that, really. But the animated stuff is done by two completely different other directors, and it's very zippy. It's very imaginative. I'm going to give credit to all the production design that's gone into creating this city inside the body. So later on, when we talk about this movie, I'm going to be on the defensive. I'm going to try and root for this movie because we actually own this movie. My missus, she likes this movie. And when I was watching it, my daughter came in and she's like, "Oh, they made us watch this in biology." And you both texted the same thing at the same time, which is did you sue the school?
Yes. Yeah.
Stand by it.
There's a class action lawsuit going on for schools who force their children to watch Osmosis Jones.
It's a toy. So both of you guys are going to be in the hate column for this movie, right?
Oh yeah. Is there something worse than hate? I'm going to be in that column.
It's not that it's really hard for me to hate any movie. I genuinely disliked a lot of it. And I also second screen watched this movie. To clarify, Will watched this movie first, and had you seen it before, Will?
I had never seen it before. I think I actually watched Me, Myself, and Irene. Oh, well,
yeah. But your live texts of this movie really didn't make it appealing to me to watch this. I'm like, oh no. And the movie opens with a monkey fingering its own asshole, and then it gets worse from there.
It's
that's the highlight.
Yeah. And we'll get into it, but that was I was 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh no. And then Ollie joined in. We synced up and we were watching the movie simultaneously, but I refused to do it over Zoom because I didn't want evidence of me actually watching this movie. And I realize that I'm saying it now, but oh boy, it was very displeasing.
I can see. I can understand the criticism, and we will definitely get back to it. The tricky part of this, listeners and viewers, is Rhode Island is tiny. But 90% of the movies made in Rhode Island are directed by the Farrelly brothers. Yeah. Because I guess they're from Rhode Island. They make movies about Rhode Island, much like the other movie that we picked, which is also directed by the Farrelly brothers. Ryan, why don't you take this one?
I picked, I guess, the Jim Carrey film Me, Myself, and Irene. It was the knee-jerk response that when I first heard Rhode Island, it was I think you as well said it was the first movie that popped into our heads. And I still enjoy this movie.
Mm-hmm. That was the one I was watching until 2 o'clock this morning.
I finished it a half hour before recording this.
And I will Will had been. Sometimes, the thing about Will's got to be in the right mood. And if he's not in the right mood and you don't bring Citizen Kane, Will gets pissed. So
I honestly try to go into everything open-minded because I had not seen Me, Myself, and Irene before.
Hang on, sorry.
Oh, that was
Twister's calling. Twister's calling. They say, Will, you're full of shit.
Will is the embodiment. Will, you're the embodiment of film Twitter. But only the bad parts.
I no joke. I honestly try to go in open mind every time, and you guys just make bad choices. It's okay to admit. No.
Yeah. Wow.
And honestly, this movie benefited a lot from me watching Osmosis Jones afterward because I'm giving Me, Myself, and Irene such a pass now.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched Osmosis Jones first. Ugh.
Oh,
Sorry, reverse that. Yeah, Me, Myself, and Irene first, and then Osmosis Jones. That's what it was.
Gotcha.
But
so in retrospect now, I'm I was harsh on Me, Myself, and Irene. So it's gone up a couple notches.
I watched it. So Me, Myself, and Irene from the year 2000. I remember watching it in theaters in Hong Kong when I was 18 years old. I remember going to see this movie.
I too saw it in the theater when it came out. I remember absolutely
losing my shit.
Yeah, I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. There are parts in this movie that I still fucking quote.
Yeah.
I'm just as I'm rewatching it, I'm like, oh, that's where I get this from. Again, it's fantastic.
It stars Jim Carrey, Renée Zellweger, Chris Cooper, Richard Jenkins in one of 2 appearances this week.
Yes, our boy Ricky Jay,
Anthony Anderson, and many more. And it tells the story of Charlie, right? He's a Rhode Island state trooper who just essentially, Charlie Bailey Gates, he's constantly being taken advantage of by people and he just swallows down the pain. His missus basically cuckolds him from the beginning of their marriage.
It's crazy.
He just swallows it. He takes it all until finally he snaps, and Hank, his alter ego, his guy that's never turned up, that he's just been created, comes out, and so starts the crazy adventure as as both of have to take Renée Zellweger back to upstate New York because blah 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 blah, kind of the mob, the end, essentially.
Yeah, but I think what's important to say is like this is probably the first movie that painted mental health and well-being in a hilarious light.
Yeah.
It's like the way Rene Russo is constantly going, wait, he's a schizo. Like,
Rene Russo?
Yeah, sorry, Renée Zellweger.
Yeah. You're still thinking about the Thomas Crown affair, aren't you?
Dude, I'm always thinking about Thomas Crown affair. Rene Russo is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, so it's funny because so Will had been kind of like sending his texts. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I come back. So like I said, I was supposed to go out to dinner. Dinner became dinner and drinks. Drinks became more drinks. And then so I got back at like midnight. And I'm like, I've still got to watch this movie.
Oh, my God.
I worried. So I put it on. Then I worried about waking up my family because I was laughing my ass
This movie, for all of its troubling issues, when there are many, we'll get into them. This movie is, I think, still fucking hilarious. It's still effortlessly quotable and some of the best physical comedy Jim Carrey has maybe ever done.
That's exactly
the scene of his face transitioning from Charlie to Hank in that pivotal, like when he finally snaps, is so insane. And then you get the nod to his little Fire Marshal Bill character later when his mouth gets fucking, it's nuts to see him do this. When he fights himself, it's great. We'll get into it, but I think we're missing a third movie that we haven't talked about.
We have, but no, seriously, physical comedy.
I mean, it's peak.
Where he picks up his unconscious self and carries himself to the car.
I still wonder how they did that.
Give the guy,
whether it's a wire trick or not,
an Oscar. But yeah, there is one more movie. It's a movie that none of us have seen, right? Now I know.
Right. Yeah.
I half watched this movie because my mum was watching it, but I must have been 9, 8 or 9. Like, there's two things that I remember. One is the wind blowing Jack Nicholson, and 2 is the very last shot of the movie.
That's not the only thing that blows Jack Nicholson. Hey.
But
we settled on it. Was one that was, when I saw it was available, I go, okay, I think we should definitely do this one. It sounds interesting. But it's The Witches of Eastwick from 1987. Stars Jack Nicholson, Cher, Susan Sarandon, Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, all three of them just stunning and great, and just they are having so much fun in this movie.
You can see how this almost becomes a template for like other witch movies. Like they got the blonde one, the redhead, the brunette, and like, for example, like The Craft did it, and then Hocus Pocus did it. Like these very witch based films. Mm-hmm. And this was I had never seen this, and this seems like it was such a template for that. And it was what a joy to watch.
I mean, it also stars Veronica Cartwright, who steals the movie, and Richard Jenkins. As himself. As himself. But what caught me off guard is I didn't realize I'd even forgotten, but the movie started and then it goes directed by George Miller.
Yeah.
Very famous for directing Happy Feet, but also all of the Mad Max movies. So it's like when I was like that, I was like, all right, okay, what are we getting into? And I tell you what, I'm going to save Witches of Eastwick for last because I really want to get into it because
if you want, we can just talk about that one.
Oh, great, fantastic.
I was waiting for that.
It was so strange. This movie is so strange. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think it has anything along the lines of an act structure whatsoever. And I also feel like none of the characters grow or learn anything. It was crazy.
It's true. I swear, and I know we're saving last, but I'll just say this movie felt like a fever dream.
Mm-hmm.
Like I watched this movie and it consumed me. It was all I can think about. It's all I can still think about. And wow, what a thrilling. I wish we would have watched this one together because I cannot stress to the audience how insane this movie is if you've never seen it.
So crazy. And I texted, that was my thing when I got done. And I think because I was focused on the movie, there are other movies where we'll text through it because you've seen it a million times. But this one is like, all I really texted with this movie is fucking bonkers, and then I text, I can't wait until you guys watch this movie because
you were waiting for me to watch it to live text my thoughts on it to make sure they aligned with your thoughts, which were this movie be crazy.
This is insane. But yeah, we're gonna save that one. I think that's gonna be our nice dessert. I think we're gonna start with the amuse-bouche of the grossest movie that we picked. It is
crazy to me how disgusting this is.
I mean, the thing is, though, it is equally as bizarre as The Witches of Eastwick. Because Osmosis Jones, we're going to start with Osmosis Jones, is, on the surface of it, sounds a bit crazy. Which is, it tells the story of Chris Rock, a white blood cell, along with his detective cop partner, David Hyde Pierce, who's a cold pill. Great animation, by the way. Who work together in the town of Frank. They live inside a human body. And a terrible, terrible virus or a terrible sort of disease played by Lawrence Fishburne, who's scary as shit in this movie.
Yeah, he's great.
Great character design, and Lawrence Fishburne he's great, baby. It's essentially just like, it's a police procedural that takes place animated inside Bill Murray's body.
Yeah. And in theory, on paper, that sounds like, whoa, that sounds really cool. Like, I love movies and shows where something is shrunken down and it takes place inside of a human body, like your Inner Spaces or the other one. But this is basically, it's like you said, Beverly Hills Cop, but in Bill Murray.
Which, again, much better sounding in my head than in execution.
Oof, yeah.
The idea I made up was much better.
Yeah.
Like, I used to watch this show it was a French cartoon which would air in the UK. So it's called Once Upon a Time Life. So, but it's in French, it's Il était une fois la vie. But it's very, very, like a kid's version of Osmosis Jones, which is everything inside the human body is anthropomorphized, and like children are sort of shrunk down like the magic school bus, and they get taught about the human body from inside, how things work, why they work. It's like something I enjoyed watching.
Yeah, but this movie is like a notch below a Mucinex commercial. Like it has none of the charm. It's just
gross. It's just like
it's so gross.
Like I was telling you guys, it's not even like it's gross in like a Day of the Dead kind of way where people are being ripped apart and it's like gory. It's just gross because everything is mucus and like blood and just sweat and just pus, and it's throughout the entire film. You don't get a break from any of it. So you just feel sick watching it. You just feel like ugh.
And I think it's also emphasized by just how great Bill Murray is at being gross in this movie. I mean, once it cuts back to like all the live action stuff, I mean, he is just disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, he gets himself sick by eating a boiled egg that fell into a chimpanzee's habitat. That was it's disgusting. What's the name of the young girl that's playing his daughter? Eleanor Frank.
Adam Driver.
a young Adam Driver plays Shane. Shane. Is that Bill Murray's basically just, I don't know, he's sleepwalking through this movie, but you can tell he's at least having fun. All I have to do is be gross. And it's like, and the thing is, it feels like two movies because it is two movies. Like I said, you've got directors doing the live action stuff, and then you've got other directors doing the animated stuff. And I would argue that if you cut almost all of the live action stuff out, if it just took place inside the body, it would be 40%.
I feel like I'm misremembering this movie, and for some reason I thought it was maybe just at the beginning and the end, like it was bookended with like the live action stuff, but it kept going like back and forth to it
throughout the movie.
Yeah, which sort of definitely ruined. I agree. I think if this was just the animated stuff, or even if the Bill Murray stuff was animated too, that would go a long way to helping this movie. I still think like just the execution is still just done in a really gross way. Like, I don't know. There's some, it's sort of like, I don't know if anybody remembers that Disney ride Journey Through Inner Space, where it was essentially Star Tours, but you are going through the human body. It's literally Star Tours. It was the same like ride setup and everything, but you're going through the human body, and it's like, you're now going to like through blood vessels and stuff. And people were getting sick on it because it's not like, you know, people don't get sick on Star Tours really. It's because like, you're confronted with bodily fluids just constantly, and you've got like your motion sickness going through it. So people, that ride was only around for a few years because people were like, "Oh, this is gross." This is kind of the same thing. It's like,
that's a great
there's a
analogy.
lot of imagination and there's a lot of creativity going into this, but it's to make something gross. So it's like, ugh.
I will say, and that's what the weird thing is, right? Because it's animated. Whereas, and Ryan mentioned it already, is in a space. I own that movie. I watch it. I still don't know how they made that movie because they're like, that's a beating heart. That's a ventricle. There's like, it's stuff in that movie that looks insane. That like blew me away. Still blows me away. But it never gets to gross. It's like, it's always more like, whoa, fascinating.
It looks so cool. And this is just, I mean, it's boils and pus and it's just.
Yeah, it's just waves of mucus. I mean, you've got Maya Fleming played by William Shatner. And it's sort of just, it always goes for the gross out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Too much so. Like that's the thing. Like, who is this movie for? Like, even as like little kid, like we're little kids just super into, I know kids can be gross, but this is just really leaning into it.
We've got, the thing is, I mean, one of two movies that has a vomiting scene, one of which is very funny, and the other one is this one. Though Molly Shannon is great in this movie.
Oh my God.
But yeah, he's just throwing out, there's an exploding zit that like lands on Molly Shannon's like lip. You get like his infected toenail, which is where like the gangsters hang out. And
get this almost like Ren and Stimpy style close up of the zit, and it's kind of hilarious. That was like the first time
it's pulsing.
Oh, that's so gross. And somehow like that shit is so gross, but you watch like the opening episode of what was it, season 3 of The Boys, and you're like, I'm on board.
It's all just tone and execution can like really change how you feel about something. Because
how
you could, like you said, you watch all of The Boys and just be like, this is a great time. And then you watch this pulsing zit and you're like, I'd rather be doing my taxes. This is disgusting.
I think I almost threw Ryan off completely when I was like, no, bro, this is the follow-up to the Iron Giant.
Because I had mentioned, I was trying to think of, like we often say to Will, I'm like, say one nice thing about this movie. I was like, oh, the shit, is someone gonna ask me that? And I will say that the animation is really incredible work on this. And I mentioned that to Ollie, and he's like, well, it's the same studio that did, because I asked if David Hyde Pierce's character was CGI, because it looked like the Iron Giant.
It's the same.
And he went on to tell me, I thought you were fucking with me.
Yeah.
A movie so bad it ruined a studio.
Well, it almost did. They made one more movie, I think, before it folded. Really, the sort of the Warner Brothers animation department in this.
Was Titan AE, right? Was the one they made after? Or was
that
a different studio?
That's Fox.
Oh, that's Fox. Yeah.
I like Titan AE. I saw that in theater.
They made
no Titan AE slander on this podcast.
They made the Space Jam sequel.
Dude,
no!
I'd forgotten about Titan AE. I had that on VCD. So it was like when I was in college, I had like PC, and I lived in Hong Kong, so you could go to HMV and you could buy VCDs for like $3. So I'm like, take it.
It's just the CD someone burned, to clarify to the audience.
Yeah, right. Actually, no, that's in Chim Sa Choi. If you want to steal them, you just go around the corner. But
what's like, VCD mean? Very cool disc.
Titan AE was way ahead of its time. I
will share a fun fact. So the school that I went to, all of our I went to school for animation, so all of our instructors worked on that movie, which was incredible. Like the Fox built this insane animation studio in Hawaii, spent an insane amount of money to have this movie made, and it fucking flopped so hard. So all of our teachers were then relegated to teaching dum-dums like me. Look at me now.
It's such a shame, because I do like that movie. I think it's really good.
It was that one, and I think they did the Final Fantasy. Maybe I'm thinking of the Final Fantasy one. I don't know. I'm sure.
That is definitely a movie that exists.
Yeah,
I forget which one came first, because it was
Spirits Within. That was that.
I believe it was the same studio.
That was a weird movie. Much like this movie is weird, but like I'm gonna sort of say it though. Like I was saying before, is the people that came up with how we're gonna make this city look, how we're gonna make it work. What are the cars gonna be like? How do things work? How do we? The different. You walk into a bar and all these different, just looking things, like these anthropomorphized things. I like the bit when fire is burning and then you see little sort of like DNA stuff coming off it or things like that. It's just the way the city moves and the way it's kind of set around the body and a cramp comes in. I found it extremely imaginative.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is like these people clearly worked. When it came to the animation side, a lot of thought had gone into this movie.
It's a great idea and a great concept, like Will said, but it just doesn't feel. There's no heart and soul to it. No pun intended. This movie has no heart, even though it does.
But yeah, it's the thing that we couldn't get over. We kept talking about it. It's just it's no surprise it was made for 70 million, made 14 million, because it's not for kids, it's not for adults, it's not for teens, it's not for women, it's not for anybody. It's a little bit of something for everyone without it being nearly enough of anything for anyone.
It made me think of it makes perfect sense. And it made me think of, I think after I watched this, it said like you might also like, and it made me think while I was watching this. Yeah. No, it was like the movie Sausage Party, for example. And that movie is also like so fucking gross, but specifically made for adults, but still a horrific, terrible movie.
I watched that movie. I think my daughter told me to watch that movie, which is troubling beyond belief. But
the same daughter that wants to watch Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem for a Dream. The last 3 minutes of Sausage Party, I've never been so shocked. I think I screamed. Like I was so shocked at what I was seeing. I can't remember. It was the orgy.
Oh, right.
It's just sausages being pushed into donuts. Everyone is all of these foods are just fucking, and it's like, what is happening? I don't want to see this.
And it's all, to be clear, it's all set in an HEB, right?
We're the sponsors of that.
There you go.
Just kidding. You can cut that out. Cut that out.
Cut that.
Sorry. Quick, Will, start drafting a statement.
We would like to apologize to HEB.
I meant food.
And here's an ad break for HEB. Oh, God. All right.
But like, I'm going to stick with it. So I'm going to stick on the defensive here for Osmosis. It is not a good movie, but it's also not a bad movie.
No.
It's just, it's a movie with it's just no point.
When I mentioned I was doing this movie, people were like, oh my God, I love that movie. And I am no longer friends with them. They are dead to me. No, I was like, people, and again, I think it comes down to, how like when you'd first seen this movie. If you're an adult watching this movie now, shame on you. But if you watch this like when you were a younger kid, I can kind of see like it being fun and funny. And
I'll tell you how everybody who says, oh, I like this movie, has seen this movie. They all had the exact same experience, which is the experience that Ollie's daughter had. They watched it in health class, talking to their crush and not really watching the movie.
What could you learn?
That's why they like this movie.
Hey, hypothalamus. We learn like bodies, cramps, things, white blood cells.
Zit into someone's mouth.
Yeah, I did like the fact that the zit became like an exclusive club. Like so. Yeah, like I said, there's little bits like the infected toenail as well.
I knew you would love the zit part. Like that. That's part of the movie.
The entrance to Ollie. The entrance to said club looks like just a butthole. Yeah.
It's definitely a sphincter muscle.
I had another thing like, why do some of the characters have like accents in this movie? Like, there's very clear ethnic, like Mexican characters.
It was the Italian gangsters as well.
Why?
Because it's the Farrelly brothers, and they think race is funny, as evidenced by the movie Green Book. They just I don't have a lot to say about the Farrelly
You start
brothers.
drafting that statement right now.
They get no apology from me. They owe all of us an apology.
So now you're back on board with the Wayans brothers, but we lost you for the Farrelly
I
brothers.
didn't realize that Peter Farrelly directed Green Book.
Yeah, that's why it's so bad. Like,
I haven't seen it. But no, Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen, really? This movie is bad.
Yeah, he owes them an apology because they are fantastic.
Morgenstein? We'll never not call him that.
Yeah, no, those two are fantastic, and Peter Farrelly failed them horribly. Like, let me tell you.
The Farrelly brothers were on a run that I feel like after Me, Myself, and Irene, they started like. I remember the first Farrelly Brothers movie I went to that I was like, I just went, huh, was the Matt Damon, Greg Kinnear Stuck on You.
Stuck on You.
Yeah. That's a bad movie.
Yeah, but you had like, we had
Dumb and Dumber,
and you got Something About Mary, and you got Me, Myself, and Irene. Like, it's just...
Not so good.
Yeah, they kind of... And it's such a shame because like I remember that was at the time where I'm like, oh, I recognize a director's name because I was just becoming of that age, and I was like, oh, you have to see this movie, and it's got Jim Carrey in it. Like, whoa, hell yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Funny enough, so I'm sitting here looking at their filmography. So Dumb and Dumber off the bat, gold. We did
Amazing.
that on the podcast. We love it. Kingpin is a movie that is
Oh
very
yeah, Kingpin. Yes, I love that movie.
Kingpin,
Yeah.
great.
yeah. Something About Mary, very funny. Then Me, Myself, and Irene in 2000, and then it's kind of Osmosis Jones, Shallow Hal, Stuck on You. Fever Pitch is good. I will go
That's
with
the
that.
Jessica Biel baseball movie.
No, the Drew Barrymore, Jimmy Fallon. But it's a remake of a British movie that had Colin
Yikes.
Firth. So Fever Pitch is about like a
Of course, you love it.
but no, Fever Pitch I remember not being too bad. But Hall Pass, so like there was a couple of things that were funny.
Yeah, but also very gross. Like we were talking about that because that also pops up on the Rhode Island list. And there's only one thing I remember about that movie, and I'll save it for another episode.
Texted it to us.
I did.
Yeah.
But like
somehow somehow less gross than the entirety of Osmosis Jones.
But like another movie that is like a movie that for nobody was The Three Stooges. You know,
I actually like that movie a lot.
Is it?
Oh no,
I never
movie
watched it, but it's like
I don't
it's
know
like
what it is.
Who in 2012 wanted an adaptation of the 1930s to 1959 film shorts, The Three Stooges?
100% my stepfather. He is obsessed with the Three Stooges, so much so that he had, credit to my mom for letting him keep these fucking things, but there were three dolls and they were hanging on our wall in our basement, and they are truly terrifying. But I don't know what it was about that movie that I enjoyed, because I honestly can't remember, but Larry David is playing the nun in that movie is phenomenal. I remember liking that movie, and I don't know. I stand by it.
All I know about the Three Stooges from popular culture is when Short Circuit reprograms the other to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah, I mean, they did the Dumb and Dumber 2. Green Book is one of them. The Greatest Beer Run Ever, which I haven't watched, which is on Apple Plus as well. But yeah, it's like Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, Something About Mary, Me, Myself, and Irene, and they've been dining out on that for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know,
well, you know, I mean, they were making all these comedies, and then they decided to like get really serious and make Osmosis Jones.
This is gonna be our Oscar.
Yeah, that's right. The Criterion Collection.
What's his face? The guy like Talladega Nights director, Adam McKay. And then suddenly he started making Oscar-nominated movies and things like that, which is crazy. But yeah, the Farrelly brothers. Yeah, it's around now. I think Osmosis Jones, because you remember, like, you know, Shallow Hal. The entire premise of that is she's fat.
Yeah, they make trouble. You look back on their track record, and it's so funny you bring that up. But you look back on their track record of their movies, and you're like, oh, a lot of the stuff, it's a bit troubling. Especially watching Me, Myself, and Irene. There's some lines and some things I'm like, ooh, this would not fucking fly today.
Oh my god,
very like,
it's very year 2000 movie. Yeah. So Will, what are your biggest gripes with Osmosis? Outside of just like it sucks. I mean, tell me like, what are the bits that just aren't working for you?
I mean, nothing about the Bill Murray story works for me. It's just, I mean, just even on a technical level, like how it's filmed, it's the most boring shot, like lazy, like movie you've ever seen.
It does look
everybody except Molly Shannon is phoning it in. Maybe the little girl's trying, but she's getting no help from the directors. So just everything about that is just bad, like worst straight to video like type movie making you've ever seen. And the animation, while the animation is good, the character design is good, like obviously those are talented animators, everything they're being asked to do to me is just either A, gross, or B, not that creative. I just get bored of, especially this is true of like a lot of American animation, is the height of imagination is, hey, what if these anthropomorphized things had a world like ours? What if they lived in a city and had cars? And every American animated film is that. Like, what if elements lived in a city? What if animals lived in a city? What if, get this, snails lived in a city? It's just like, okay, like.
But what if Legos lived in the city? $1 billion.
What if Legos lived in a city? But then you see like Miyazaki's latest movie, and you're like, oh, animation can do another thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a fair criticism, Will, when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Like,
So it's just
it's like everything in a city. I'm like, oh, Zootopia. Oh, Elemental.
in a
Oh,
city.
Soul. Oh, shit.
Yeah, what
Well,
if
where else are
emotions
they?
lived
Yeah,
in a city?
but the
Okay.
city is inside of a body.
Whoa! That's only the 95th time I've seen
Right.
that. Man, that's not animation can do anything.
Yeah.
So it's just the uncreativity of that concept. But I will say the voice acting, the voice actors are not phoning it in. I really do think they're doing a good job.
Great job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually couldn't tell right away that it was William Shatner, because William Shatner, contrary to popular belief, does actually try from time to time. He's not just William Shatner and everything. I'm not saying it's a fantastic, like, oh my god, why
Great.
didn't he win an award?
Miss
But
Congeniality. I always liked him.
yes,
Miss Congeniality.
exactly. Yeah, he's fantastic in that. So I like that. So definitely the animated parts are the highlight of the movie by far. It's just that it's so gross, and the story itself is so by the numbers. Like you there's no surprises in it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I get that as a criticism, but I'd almost argue that I think that's deliberate. Like you get
I'm sure it's deliberate.
You get
but
all the
it's the wrong
cliches,
choice.
it's like it's the buddy cop thing. You've got the angry captain. You got the 48 hours to fix. You got to give me your badge.
Which I love a good angry captain. If anybody's listening,
yeah.
they need an angry captain. Like,
Yeah.
hire me. I will do it for free.
You bring that up a lot.
I love it.
Best
I
angry
love
captain. Ice Cube.
Last Action Hero.
21
Oh,
and 22 Jump Street.
Yeah. Oh, both of those.
Yeah.
Both those amazing choices. Number 3 is obviously the captain from Samurai Cop. It's the best 3 angry captains.
Hell
Love
yeah.
it.
Can't wait to see that.
Angry black captain. Ain't nothing but a fucking stereotype. But it's like, sometimes
let's watch
Better
angry.
movie.
Just suck a dick.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're
Let's
right.
watch those movies.
This movie doesn't, for all of the chances that it tries to take, it doesn't take any. And
Right.
it is a very
exactly
by the
right as
numbers
well.
thing. But I think that's because they were trying visually to do something new, and they were scared to take any like real risks, but they weren't scared to make like I always go back to the Key and Peele sketch where he's pitching the Gremlins, and I feel like someone came into the studio and like did that same thing, but for this movie.
What if an egg got mayonnaise on it and then fell into an
It's
ape
in
egg?
the
A
movie. Like no one said no on this,
Right.
and
Yeah.
paid the price for it.
And like,
It's just a boring, bland. Like I said, it's not a bad movie, but it's certainly not a good movie.
no,
I think it's the worst. For me, it was like the worst studio movie I've ever seen.
You made it
Like-
very clear that this movie was a hate crime.
Yeah, I hated this movie. I just thought it was so bad, and it made me feel worse for the people who were talented and were trying on this, like the animators.
You could tell a lot of like for the
it
animation
pissed me
stuff,
off for them.
Yeah, they put a lot of heart and soul into, because again, it is excellently animated, but it's just the subject matter is just terrible.
we had some RoboCop and Terminator 2 references. Like when Thrax dissolves in the beaker of alcohol, that is very reminiscent.
Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that because this movie sucked.
Yeah, but like the animation of him.
Yeah, it looked good. I mean,
again,
so creative.
Yeah,
Like-
the animation quality is good, but it's all just being directed.
Did you say there was a Matrix reference to this too?
Yeah, there was a bit where it was the shoo. They sort of slowed
when they're
down.
fighting
well,
the
everything.
eyeball.
I mean, they did that in fucking Kung Pao also.
They
so.
did it in Shrek. As
A
well.
better movie. I love
Yeah.
Kung Pao.
I
But
do
like,
too.
but
Where does
yeah,
that take
because
place?
we've got Morpheus himself in this movie as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ryan, I think you hit the nail. Is that it hit none of the shots it didn't take.
Yeah, it's just and I have seen worse films, but they didn't come from a studio. The fact that a studio produced this made this like abysmal to me. Like even the Transformers movies, which are bad movies, but they don't like offend me to my core. I'm just like whatever. Except for the last 2 Transformers movies, I do like the 2 new ones.
The Beasts one, me and Mrs. I tried 5 times to watch that movie. I managed to get an hour in. I kept turning it off, and I was like, because I really like Anthony Ramos, but that movie was shit.
Listen, here's the thing about that movie. I don't care about Beast Wars stuff. I never liked Beast Wars. I was always OG Transformers guy, and the Beasts were hardly in the movie. So I was like, oh great, this is fantastic. I know fans hated it, but I was like, I don't care about Beast Wars, so this is great.
Little aside, I kind of blew Mrs.'s mind last night, but I don't know if you know, but like Japan's about to try and land on the moon,
Yeah.
And they've landing rope, and they've got this robot on board, and they went to design it. They went to the company that makes Transformers. So
Hasbro?
Nice.
so yeah, it was like, well, the guys that made the very first Transformers in Japan, because they're
It was
very good at,
Takara, by the way.
like
That's who made the original.
but it's like, so it's like a ball that then when it lands, it kind of pops out to become two wheels, and antenna comes out the top on a stabilizer at the back. That even the
It's
Japanese
rad.
like space went, we need a transformer on the moon. That's how you get
Hell
back to
yeah.
the moon. That's how you
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
you want a Michael
Yeah.
Bay movie? It's about to happen, guys.
I love it. It was just
Michael
scientists
Bay
being
just
like,
rubbing
"Should we
his
make this
hands."
cool?" Yeah. It was rad. Love it. Great.
I did like the bit towards the end where Ozzy is on the false eyelash, like the bit with the false eyelash coming off
Oh,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
sound effect and him like running on the falsie and the whole getting back into the body. I like the little design on that scene. I thought was quite well done, like giving the sort of the sense of scale of the false eyelash, and you've got
That was
Osmosis
cool.
Jones running
My
with
ish-
it.
another issue I had with this movie is I might get canceled for this one, but here we go. Oh no, the words
Here's
are
his
coming
thoughts
out.
about
Oh
women,
no.
everybody. Here
Oh
it
no.
comes.
Here they
Power
come.
through it.
But like, now there's this huge stigma of like white voice actors voicing like ethnic characters. And in this movie, the second Chris Rock's character is introduced as a white blood cell, I was like, oh come on. Can't have it both ways.
It's like when he's from was it Madagascar, where he's the zebra, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Am I white with black stripes, or am I black with white stripes?" I always like that sort of like that dichotomy in his character. I always thought.
I kept thinking though, I was like, I wonder if this it definitely would not have been, but what if Eddie Murphy was voicing Osmosis Jones? Like, because it's very much and he's wearing the same outfit from Beverly Hills Cop,
Yeah,
I wonder
mean,
if that was maybe even like an early choice. Like they went to him and
I'm
he was
sure.
like, I already did this.
I
I will
don't know.
never do this again.
What was he doing in 2000? Bowfinger?
Yeah.
A better movie.
Yeah.
that scene at the end, the kung fu fight at the end of that movie is hilarious. Where they're
Oh,
doing...
Bowfinger. I thought you meant Osmosis Jones. I blocked that out.
But yeah, this movie there's things that are done well. Like I like Drix or Drixanol, Drixbenzomethamphetamine. But that's played by Niles, David Hyde Pierce. He does great. Character design on him is great.
Yeah.
I like the way he moves. I like the way he looks.
Was he one of the only things that was like 3? Because
Yeah.
much like the Iron Giant, he was the only thing 3D.
He was
animated.
kind of the 3D
Which
element
I thought was
inside
cool.
the-
As I was watching that, I'm like, wow, this definitely gives off Iron Giant vibes, just much, much worse.
just without any of the talent.
Any charm. Like, it's not a charming movie. That's the thing. Like, you don't connect
No.
with. I didn't connect with any of these characters,
Well, let's be honest.
and I'm basically 80% phlegm.
Because the Iron Giant came out the year before, 1999, and it
Again, a famously terrible year for movies.
yeah
Yeah.
it made,
Name another movie that came out.
it cost
The Insider.
$20 million less than Osmosis Jones. But it still lost $20 million, whereas Osmosis Jones, I think, lost 50 million or something like that.
Oof. Eesh.
That's an owie right there.
It's somehow still losing money,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we paid to rent it.
Yeah. And somehow took money out of their bank. The studio was like, no, who did that?
Yeah, they're gonna get their residual checks going. Who?
Will went to go rent this at his local video store. Shout out to what's their name?
The Videotech is the name.
Videotech. He went to go rent Osmosis Jones, and they are no longer in business.
They've closed up
It
shop.
financially crippled them.
They looked at me with sad eyes as they were handing me the disc. Like, are you sure we have other movies?
After seeing like all the movies the movies that you regularly rent from this place, they're like, what? Are you on some kind of government watch list now?
Yeah. Just the most bizarre random assortment of movies. Like, what? I have to rent a porno every once in a while to seem normal. Like, that's
Osmosis Bones.
Now there's a movie. Also starring Adam Driver. Very weird.
Oh wow.
We forgot to mention Ron Howard turns up in this movie.
Yeah, as Tom Colonoscopy.
Tom Colonic.
Colonic.
Yeah,
Worst name.
the rival to Mayor Fleming.
You have a cameo from Kid Rock as Kidney Rock.
We had a
right?
Kid
And
Rock
his bands.
cameo.
And Uncle
Also-
Cracker, I believe. There were
Yes,
other band
Uncle
members.
Cracker is there as well because they're part of the fictional band Kidney Rock.
Mhm. Okay, that was the name of the band. Got it.
Woo!
Yeah, I hate it. There was a thinly veiled Jewish joke in this that I
Yeah,
Oh,
caught
that's right.
immediately. That I actually thought was pretty fucking funny.
yeah. He
It's
doesn't
like
look Flemish or whatever.
Fluish.
Fluish. That's it.
Fluish.
Fluish. Oh, he doesn't
Flemish.
look Flemish is Belgian.
Right. God, I thought I spit my drink out. I'm like, is this actually a funny line? Also, am I offended? Can you do that?
A lot of mixed emotions.
I'm notoriously impossible to offend, but that struck me.
That was
I'm only half fluish. I thought that was a good one. Maybe the only time I audibly laughed outside of anything Molly Shannon was doing, because
yes,
she was delightful.
Like Molly Shannon, I think, was the absolute highlight of the movie, and she's only in the movie for like 2 minutes. But those both minutes are fantastic. Though, yeah, and the thing about it is, I say something, Ryan, we started doing a couple of episodes ago, you kind of started pushing for it, is the idea of like, would we recommend Osmosis Jones as a movie to watch?
Ooh, no.
Yeah, I'm agreeing.
I can't. There are better movies to watch that accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, because I know some people do that, listen to the podcast to try to sort of listen and watch along with us, try and watch some of the movies. I think Osmosis Jones is a movie you can skip.
Yeah, it's not even like a fun let's talk trash about it kind of thing, because
it's not, like you said, it's not doing anything right or wrong or up or down or left or right. It's just there. It's just good animation. That
said, like I said, I think if you were of a certain age and you watched this movie when you came out and you absolutely love it, shame on you.
Yeah. 1000%.
Yeah.
You had me in the first half.
Don't tell it to anybody. Keep that to yourself. Keep it bottled in. It's better for everyone.
But people do have like the opposite response to like what Will was saying, and genuinely like this movie, like a lot. And when I was saying like it's not good, they're like, "What's wrong with you? This movie's great. Shame on you." But
where were they on January 6th? That's what I want to know. That's the big question.
Inside Bill Murray.
But like, I didn't have to rent this movie because we own it, because my wife likes this movie. So you know what I mean? It's like it's not going to win any awards. It's not going to change your life. It's not Titan AE.
No, watch Titan AE instead. That movie rules.
No, just watch Inner Space. Just watch Inner Space.
Watch Inner Space. Inner Space is awesome.
That movie is
or just watch the opening cold open to Look Who's Talking. Same thing. Or to a lesser extent, to a lesser extent, Look Who's Talking Now, where it's inside of the dogs.
Yeah, dude. I was.
Oh my god.
It's dog sperm this time. It's
finally on screen.
Danny DeVito, isn't it? As well.
Yes, and Diane Keaton. Is it Diane
Maybe.
Keaton?
I'm not sure. But like, but yeah, I remember that movie. Yeah, the opening of that movie is, and that was one of those jokes I laughed at in Osmosis Jones. That Will, I could hear you rolling your eyes. But it was like they had a statue to our founder, and it's just a sperm in the middle of it,
I kept saying like, when are they gonna get to the dick?
Yeah.
But they did make a testicle reference when he's like, "We got to get to the dangly thing." Oh, okay, and he goes to the testicles, and it's like, no, the thing at the back of the
uvula,
which has an incredible appearance in Me, Myself, and Irene. Actually,
yes,
one of the best shots of Me, Myself, and Irene is Jim Carrey's uvula going absolutely bonkers as they just zoom all the way in onto it, which is a perfect way to segue away from like Osmosis Jones. It exists.
Yeah,
we thought it'd be like, let's put it in there. I think let's get another animated movie in there. It is a movie.
My one word review of this: skip.
Whereas, so Me, Myself, and Irene, and we're gonna go there. This movie, I was worried, like I said, coming back late at night. I have to watch this. By the end of the movie, I was kind of awake. I'm like, shit, now I have to go to sleep. It's 2 a.m. I gotta wake up and do a podcast tomorrow, because the movie, it cracked me up. This movie cracked me up. The physical comedy of Jim Carrey is unmatched in this movie. Great chemistry with Renee Zellweger. This is when they started dating. And it just, this movie is crazy, it's bold, it's funny, and it's like, I think we got 2 Jim Carrey Farrelly Brothers movies. We actually got 3 technically, but I don't count the second Dumb and Dumber. But we got Dumb and Dumber, which is kind of like, PG-13 kind of stuff. What I like about Me, Myself, and Irene is it's a full-on hard R. It's
Well,
a
you can't say that.
let's do a hard R comedy, and they do, and it is at times shocking. I mean, still one of the most shocking moments of that movie is when he's breastfeeding
Yeah.
on that woman, and it's just. But
And
the
then it
comedy
cuts
of like it's the extra suck that he does on the boob, and he's like, and then goes back to.
He is just he's fantastic in this movie, and it's incredible to see him quite literally play two wildly different characters. And I think Hank, he has some of the best dialogue ever in a Jim Carrey movie that I still quote to this day. I was just like I said, whatever you say, Slim. He's just like, he never told me he had an eating disorder. It's just like these throwaway lines that are so good. My favorite being, and it's again a testament to how problematic this fucking movie is, when they're in the little restaurant and he turns into Hank because he almost gets into a fight with a little kid for sipping his milk too loud. He walks over to this clearly lesbian couple, takes a puff of their cigarette and just says, "How's it hanging, fellas?" And just it's crazy to me that this shit flies. It's nuts. I love it.
For me, like, because I was going, Will was meh about this movie. I go, maybe I'm wrong. And it's a smash cut from breastfeeding to driving the car, and he's got the milk mustache. And I'm sorry, it's funny every time.
Everything leading up to him transforming into Hank. Like, let's get back to it in the beginning. Like, him and his wife are so madly in love that they're wearing t-shirts with each other's faces on it, which I think is hilarious. I don't know why. And the situation which transpires after that, they get married, and then she immediately cheats on him with that Shantae, which
the limo driver who is a black dwarf with genius level
and
IQ.
You're led to believe that he remains oblivious that when the children are born, that they are this character's children, even though one of them is named Shantae Jr.
Yeah, that's such a funny bit.
What? It's fucking crazy. It cuts.
The baby being born, and it's a boy. Yeah.
But then then it cuts to them like a little bit grown up, and she just fucking leaves. Like leaves their kids, right? It's crazy to me. And he leaves too. Like those are so clearly his three children, and they're gone.
What's funnier than a black man abandoning his kids? Nothing is funnier. Way to go, Fairleys. You guys knocked it out of the park again.
But then also, as they get a little bit older, like they're still toddlers, he just kind of goes to work and leaves these three children unattended. I get that they're very smart, but that's crazy. It implies that he was doing that their entire lives. He's just like, all right, see you later.
They build one of those little light aircrafts, and they're smart.
But my favorite thing about this movie is his relationship with his children, though.
I was going to say
so much.
I love his boys. They're my three opening characters.
Watching the Richard Pryor bit to then cutting to the Chris Rock bit, and he's laughing too. And the kids now are gigantic. And they're absolute geniuses. It's so funny to me.
That was one of the 2 or 3 parts of this movie where I laughed, where they're kids watching Richard Pryor on the couch, and then they're gigantic and they're still in the same spot and watch it. And I just love them go like, and they're that's funny.
And it's kind of reminiscent of, like you were saying, what Jim Carrey was part of the comedy group
In Living Color,
Yeah, so it's like, so he plays the sort of like the awkward white guy relating with his black friends or black children in this case. And he's like, oh, he's a funny motherfucker. And he's like, oh, I don't want to have to bust a cap. He's just
it's great.
And they're like, oh, daddy. And
it's like, just remember, no bitches after 11. But they're like, it's crazy to even say, but it's so believable that they are his children. Like, I know that they're actors and they're not, but the relationship they have is so adorable. Like, all right, daddy. And they all kiss him on the cheek. It's fucking great.
That's the thing. It's a very sweet, that's something, like I said, there is and Jim Carrey's good at this, is that he brings heart to sort of ridiculous situations, and he can bring some sort of genuine, and it's like, that's that thing that I'm watching going, no, this is just fun and positive. It's like these three boys and their dad, and he's a single dad, and he's obviously raising somebody else's children. But it doesn't matter to him, and it doesn't matter to those kids. That's my dad, those are my kids.
Then he leaves his house. And he's getting all of this love and affection and respect at home. And then the next few minutes, I mean, you can see him slowly breaking down from the barber shop to the
We
grocery
got
to
straight away the neighbor's dog taking
the
his
neighbor's
shit.
dog. Yes.
And he's like, and then the
God,
neighbor's stolen his newspaper. He's like, can't you get another one at at the station? He's like,
Station. Yeah.
okay. And then you got the
oh
little
my
kid
God.
jumping rope, and he's like, you want to get down the
She
street?
just
Fuck
screams,
off!
"Fuck you!" Yeah, God, great. My daddy says I don't have to respect you. Like who's this kid? Like
Yeah.
who's saying that to their kids?
The guy's like, you
Uh,
got to move your car, and chucks the keys at him. And
and
then
even
like
the
it's
barbershop owner's like,
and
shame.
it correct me if I'm wrong. Is that Toni Collette in a tiny little role? The
Mm,
lady that comes up,
no,
it
no, no,
looks
no, no,
just like her.
I
no.
don't know.
The
Yeah.
one
I know
that
who you're thinking of.
the
The
one that needs
Vagiclean lady.
Vagiclean.
Yeah, no, that's not her.
Um,
No. Yeah.
but
Definitely not.
you are so right. Is that Ryan? Is that's when I realized that Jim Carrey is a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Is in that last bit where not Toni Collette comes and goes, "Can I get in front of you? I'm in a wicked rush," and she's only holding a Butterfinger, and then he's only buying one thing,
Yeah.
and suddenly the kids come up, and then she's
With
got
two full carts. Ugh.
multiple shopping carts, and he goes through this as that music plays, that sort of the drums, and he starts twitching, and he just
Amazing.
faces. It's maybe a masterpiece of
It's like the
acting.
emotional swings he goes through with like just his face is even still seeing it now is like so like you can find an animated gif of it. It's so good, and it's perfect to send to your friends and family. But seeing him do the hand down his face and just come up and like realizing he doesn't know where he is. He checks his gun, which I think is so
Cool.
funny.
Yeah.
And then just the whole price check on Vagiclean is like again
We got a full-on fallopian fungus here.
like
Someone's baking bread, and,
I think it's sourdough.
put a rush on that.
God.
It's
Oh,
so
good.
funny.
He's like, what's the matter? A little too much, a little extra cheese on the taco. It's just every line he says is Hank is so good. It's so good. And Will is just like, nah, I'd rather watch
Dude.
Transformers on the moon.
Yeah. Here we go. I'm back, baby. Yeah, I don't know. I think
Jim Carrey wasn't getting you in this movie. He's so funny in
But
this
again,
movie.
like I was saying, had you seen this like back then, I think you would have a much different, watching this now with fresh eyes, you're like, this isn't funny because funnier things, you've seen funnier things. So it's probably not doing it, but this changed
and
like
I don't know. I'll be honest. A lot of my opinion of Jim Carrey is not helped by the fact that I saw that Andy documentary, and it really did change my perception of him. And now I can't not think about him trying to method act in that movie and being horrible to everybody on that set.
and Man on the Moon. Yeah.
Man on the Moon, yeah, and the documentary they're making that just
I thought you were talking about
really,
Kick-Ass too.
It's a great documentary. It's a great.
It's a
It
great
is, yeah.
documentary, but it really I get very angry when I see people mistreat cast and crew members
Sure.
because like I'm acting. I'm like Daniel Day-Lewis doesn't do this. You do not need to be this way. And watch that documentary. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
But so I can't get that out of my head when I'm watching him these days. But at the same time, I think like Liar Liar, Dumb and Dumber, Truman Show, like all these movies are so much better. And this is just, to me, this is like right after his like height. So this is like he was doing like more serious stuff and like really expanding as like an actor.
Yeah.
And this felt like a step backward, and then I felt like he's never really got back on track. Like I don't know, there was just something about like this movie where I'm like, this is just after his absolute
Like
height.
was this right after The Cable Guy?
This is the year 2000.
This is after Cable Guy, which is great. But I think
Yeah.
after that, he really started to kind of
But
like.
it's funny you say that, but I was thinking about this the other day because I think The Cable Guy was like the first Jim Carrey movie I remember seeing after loving like Ace Ventura and all these that I'm like, oh no, he's not doing the thing that I love. I hate this. But now that I'm older, I'm like, this movie's fucking incredible.
So good.
I had
So
the same reaction. So we had them. Cable Guy was 96. The actual first earliest movie I ever saw Jim Carrey in, I didn't realize it was him because I didn't know him, is 1988's Earth
Once
Girl
Bitten.
Easy.
Oh shit! I thought you were saying
yeah.
Once Bitten, the vampire movie with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got that as well. I haven't seen that one. He's in Finders Keepers, but he's in Pink Cadillac. But it's Earth Girls Are Easy was I think the one. But it's it was that incredible year of this guy turns up and he's Ace Ventura, he's The Mask, and he's Dumb and Dumber, all in 1994. The guy went from Who to the biggest movie star.
Yeah, he
on
was one of the
planet.
one of the first to make like 20 million a movie, right?
It's
Like
just
something
he went from that
insane.
Ace Ventura, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber. Then he's in Batman Forever, Ace Ventura 2, Cable Guy, Liar Liar, Truman Show, Simon Birch. I don't know that one. Man on the Moon, Me, Myself, and Irene.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Grinch, Bruce Almighty,
Yeah.
Eternal
see-
Sunshine.
Yeah.
Eternal Sunshine is good, but for completely
Yeah.
different reasons.
The number 23, hello.
I skipped
Top
over.
Secret.
Banger.
Have you guys seen I Love You, Philip Morris? That's a very funny movie. I Love You, Philip Morris is Jim Carrey and it's Ewan McGregor, but it's telling a true story.
Oh.
I'd actually seen documentary on years before. I watched this great documentary about this guy that was just so great at escaping prison. And it was a wacky story. And then when I found out that they made the movie, I Love You, Philip Morris, I would recommend that. It's so funny. It's
then
I
you've
just
got
now
your-
remember the poster where they're like
Yeah.
heart shaped.
Yeah.
The two of them.
it's got one of the
okay.
most jarring smash cuts to gay sex I've ever seen in the movie.
Much like this movie has the most jarring smash cut where it's him shitting on the guy's lawn and it cuts to frozen yogurt being poured out, which is fucking hilarious.
Very, very 2 girls, 1 cup. Go watch it, kids. But
God.
yeah.
It's no, but Me, Myself, and Irene is like
I love this movie. I don't care.
me too. I agree because I even like the music. Like it's got all this sort of like very 2000s.
Very Farrelly Brothers soundtrack.
Very.
Like, yeah.
But,
I mean,
So yeah, right around the time that they figure out that he's paranoid schizophrenic with narcissistic rage or whatever.
he's like with the, oh my God, I forget. He just recently passed away from Jackie Brown. What's his name?
Robert Forster.
Yeah, Robert Forster.
Yeah.
Oh my God, incredible in everything he's ever been in. I love him. He's like, yeah, we got your results back from the psychiatrist up north. He's like, you got a screw loose.
Yeah,
Great.
that guy's fantastic. Great
He's
in
so
Jackie
good.
Brown.
Yes.
Yeah, he steals Jackie Brown in a way. He's like, he's such a great character. But yeah, essentially is that it comes out that he's got to take a pill every 6 hours, otherwise Hank comes out. And so while this is happening, he is ordered to take Irene, of the title, played by Renée Zellweger, from Rhode Island to Massena, New York, where she's wanted for a hit and run. But it's all, like I said, it's all bullshit to do with an ex-boyfriend. It's irrelevant.
The whole anterior plot of this with the EPA, and I've seen this movie dozens of times. I still does not make any fucking sense. I don't care.
I went to read the Roger Ebert review of this movie because I just needed somebody to be on my side, and he had pretty much my opinion on this, but he described this plot as being, or the actual plot as being impenetrable. He's just like, you can't. None of this makes a lick of sense. He's like, it doesn't really matter, but it also crops up so much that it can't help but be distracting.
Yeah,
and it's like you got to go one way or other. It's either got to like not matter at all, or it's got to be the thing the movie's about. And this isn't that middle ground where it's like, am I not supposed to pay attention, or am I? Like,
it's such a great point that like this isn't so much a movie as it is just a bunch of vignettes of Jim Carrey doing wacky things.
Yeah.
And I love all of those things.
And they were great.
Yeah, they're all bits.
His just comedy, his approach. I mean, for me, and it's what Ryan mentioned as well, and I was like, I was waiting for it. Here it is. The cow scene is still one of, I mean, I could barely breathe. And
I was dying in the theater when I saw it.
I was texting and I'm like,
funny.
I was laughing so hard. Again, it's like, essentially he comes across a cow that looks like it's been hit by a truck, lying on the road. He's trying to like, suddenly it moves and he's like, oh, so he shoots it in the head. And then it moves again, he shoots it 3 more times. It moves again, he shoots it like 6 more times.
When he grabs the nostrils.
He's trying to choke it.
But
and
then
the bit that always gets me is Renée Zellweger just starts kicking it.
She's playing. That's the best part of that, is that she's playing it so straight and sweet and like, oh my God. But he's like, help me, what do I do? And she's like, she's wearing the bike helmet. It's great. But what's even crazier is that prior to that happening, they try to move it off the road. And he just like grabs it by the tail, like he's gonna pull this like 500-pound cow, and she's in the front just pushing it. It's insane. But yes, good. It was good to see if you were able to make it through the credits of this movie, the cow lives. It's got like a neck brace on at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did love the reference of like, they're talking about your dad. Yeah, your dad shot sort of 9 bullets into its a cow's skull.
Thing's lucky to be alive.
Yeah, it's lucky to be alive.
It's such a throwaway line. It's fucking great.
But that I'm with Ryan on this one. I remember seeing that in theaters. I remember falling out of my seat.
This movie had me
stop laughing.
dying throughout. I was worried that rewatching it again with a modern lens was going to
Bad
take
Boys
me
2.
out of it. Yeah. And again, like to say, there are a lot of still problematic, like homophobic and racial stuff in this movie that has not aged well. Hell, I mean, it's been 23, 24 years, but it's still pretty fucking funny. Him turning into Hank and being just an absolute monster. Hey, ringworm. I love it.
But the funny little thing about Hank is he gets into situations, but he's a terrible fighter. He's always getting the shit kicked out of him, and then Charlie has. Yeah, I always do this. That's something.
The bobbing and weaving.
Serpentine.
Yeah.
He just gets always. Charlie is always paying the price for Hank's, shenanigans, and then suddenly Charlie snaps in, and he's the one that's been kicked in the nuts, or he's got. I mean, also, can I say, award-winning Foley artist work for the whistling nose in situations.
Oh my god,
the whistling nose thing was just cracking me up.
That's really good.
Yeah, I
Someone
don't know.
sitting there with a whistle. It was so good.
I don't know. For me, I hate to be negative about it, especially since
No, you don't.
a worse movie. Well, a worse movie came along after this. But things like the cow thing. I think maybe I have just seen similar stuff since this came out. So the moment I saw the cow, I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen. And of course, everything I knew, I was like, he's gonna shoot it, then he's gonna strangle it. Okay. There were so many things like that, and the nose whistling scene. A lot of these things go on for just too long. Like the albino stuff went on for so long.
Whitey?
After a while, I was like when they would go back in. Yeah, when he was like, I'm gonna go back in and say something. I was like, we're still on this, move on. There was just so much that.
But then you get that scene where they're at the hotel together.
Yeah.
This is one of the only 2 times I laughed.
This broke me in the theater. This was maybe the funniest thing I had ever seen at that time. Where he goes out and he gets into an altercation with a guy, and he comes back and you're like, oh wow, he thinks he's cured, but it's Hank playing as him to convince Renee Zellweger to have sex, and it's crazy. And you get that realization the next day with him peeing, and he just goes, it's fucking. I think it's hilarious. It's
the physical, again, the physical comedy of he's there to pee, and
him
then
using the picture to deflect.
He's trying to direct it down.
It's crazy.
I've seen an alternate cut of that, which is also very funny. But that is one, that is so funny. But I think the bit that Will was talking about is the bit where Whitey and Charlie are in bed.
Yeah, they're in bed.
Yeah. That was such a weird C plot that didn't really matter.
How did your family? I murdered them.
Yeah. Murdered all of their acts. And he's like, they let me out because I'm an adult now. It's a pretty fucked up law.
Yeah. And just Jim Carrey saying that.
He was great. Yeah. I thought you were going to talk about when he's got the giant fucking dildo and she goes, it wasn't for me. And he was, oh my God.
Yeah.
But again, I saw that punchline coming a mile away.
But smash cut to him sitting on the sink, rinsing his butthole.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's great. I stand by how funny this movie still is.
Me too. Defending this one. Will,
I can easily see how if you haven't seen this movie before and you're watching it for the first time, how it wouldn't be funny, because a lot of things have happened since this movie that are funnier or have kind of pulled from this. But I remember where I was when I saw this movie, and it still hits.
in Shatin, Hong Kong. I remember who I was with. I remember coming out of that movie theater and just we were all like, God, that movie was ridiculous and hilarious. Great. I think some of the best parts, the bit where Hank and Charlie are having a fight outside the train station. How the hell? Jim Carrey should have won a goddamn Oscar for this movie.
He picks himself up by his ear and flips himself.
And then
wild.
He's running, chasing him, and then he turns around, and then there's the sound effect of him being tackled, and he tackles himself backwards through the window.
Nuts. Yeah.
And you're seeing these guys have a fight, and I'm like, it's incredible.
Yeah. And he throws himself down like a flight of stairs. That's good. And then he's in the car and he looks. He's in the car and he looks in the rearview mirror. He's like,
the Fight Club scene where they do it is funnier. I'm sorry, that's where he beats himself up in the office. It's funnier. I'm sorry, it just is. It's more unexpected. It's more violent. and like everybody actually acknowledges that this is crazy, other than like people watch a guy smash through a window and they're like, well, all right, I need to get on the bus.
I
And
don't know.
it's like,
I think that stunt work and the
okay.
physicality is really incredible.
Yeah, where he faints at the blood because they've been shot, and then Hank picks him up and throws him over his own shoulder, but
It's
he's
really good.
unconscious. An invisible Hank carries him and throws him into the back of the car, and then Hank just oozes back out the other
So
side.
good. It's
Well,
really,
yeah, I'm not going to say that his physicality isn't good and that he's not good at it. Like, obviously, he's like incredible at it. It's just by this point, I was like, all right, let's go.
it is a long
I can
movie.
just watch this clip on YouTube.
hours.
I don't
Yeah.
need to watch this whole movie.
Well,
Like, you know,
It was
you can say that with any movie.
another bit I like
Nah.
is where like they've stolen the car from Chris Cooper, and they found the shovel, the lime, and everything in the back, right? But it's smash cut again. It's to Renee Zellweger with like
The lawn
a
dart.
fork or a knife. Yeah, lawn dart. Oh, yeah, Chekhov's lawn dart.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's Jim Carrey. Motherfucker. He's listening to that.
Whoa! Pump the brakes. That whole fucking thing, I know by heart. I love it. And then he just starts laughing, but you get the nose whistling. He's like, "Oh, thanks. I haven't laughed like that in a long time." He's just like,
Yeah.
just like, great. It's great. Do you swallow? And she just like, smacks him. He's like, all right,
smacks him
we'll
and-
take it slow. Hilarious. I feel like if I remember correctly, I probably had this on DVD at some point. I think there was a lot of stuff that was cut out of this movie.
Yeah.
Like when she first shows up at his motel room, which is at the Chuck E. Cheese and miniature golf fucking thing, which is hysterical. I think there's a scene that was cut out where he's like fucking a watermelon, which explains why there's like watermelon seeds on his pillow. No?
No.
I know Will hasn't seen the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm misremembering, but
I think I've seen like an unrated version.
that was just a
yeah,
dream.
maybe.
he had.
I think I don't because I think there's a bit where he's got like a watermelon with a hole in it on like the count. Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie altogether.
Or just,
This is what happened to you in real life.
I was about to
and
say, you're thinking about
attributed
Friday
it.
night.
Yeah. Fuck. This was 25 minutes ago.
You
That's
just
not
look over,
good
there's
melon.
a watermelon on your counter. Oh,
I'll blur the background. Hold on.
I'm just waiting for it to do that little thought bubble with a thumbs up that every now and again
Shit.
happens on your screen.
Yeah, I figured out how to turn that off. Thank you. I think.
How did you turn it on was my question. It would just happen at
Doesn't
random.
matter. It doesn't matter. That's not important. That's not relevant to this podcast. What is important
It's fucking a
is-
watermelon.
and the ending of this movie, it's so, I mean, and again, I just watched this right before we recorded. They make it back to Rhode Island.
Yeah.
They say their goodbyes. She leaves. She gets pulled over again. They get out of the car. They get her out of the car. Her and Jim Carrey kiss and then live happily ever after, maybe?
pretty much. Yeah, he proposes
Yeah.
to her. That's
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you also admit the bit we skipped over is the bit where Charlie decides to finally take it because Hank's. It's like, well, we tried. Because Renee Zellweger has been kidnapped by, it doesn't matter, the mob
Yeah.
guy, and they're over the water. And
Oh,
you
she
get
falls
this-
into the water and like smashes her head on a rock.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
close up is like, whoa.
But you get that
Crazy.
bit right before where like Charlie's like, no, we got to go and do it, and he's like, Hank's leg is stopping him, and he kind of does that scream. It kind of unites him, and he goes, all right, I don't need you anymore. But it's like that bit where he kind of talks him down, grabs the gun, and then he shoots
Shoots
thumb
his
off,
fucking thumb off.
and you just get that.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah,
that was the other part of that was the
great.
last part of the movie that made me laugh, is shooting the thumb off.
Yeah,
right?
that was
Okay,
great because you don't see
That's
it coming.
really
like,
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
no, and then they fall into the water, and I always love Jim Carrey's just perfect swan dive.
Yeah.
He jumps into the water.
And, well, that's as Hank, because he says like he can't. In the very beginning, he says he can't swim, but that'll come up later. I didn't
Yeah.
really care. The narration in this was
Oh,
one thing I didn't really
God.
miss.
It's
that
Rex
much.
Didn't
Allen
shut
Jr..
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
throughout the entire movie, it cuts off people's dialogue. Like, people are about to say
Yeah.
stuff, and he goes, "Well, this guy said this."
Yeah.
It's, shut up, and I can hear it. Why are
Oh,
you
but when
talking?
Scorsese does it in Casino,
Yeah, it's not like Joe
Bang.
Pesci's about to speak. It's like, let me tell you, and then
Was-
this character beat this guy in an alley. It's
Like,
like,
Mr. Does Something About Mary also have narration to it? Or am
It's
I-
got no. It's more like the band.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Who also
keep
pop up, I think, in
popping
a
up.
number of their other movies.
It's,
That's actually the Farrelly brothers.
Oh, that's why it's bad. Got it.
So in the post-credit scene, Whitey does find his thumb, but it gets eaten by a fish last second. That's kind of like so it goes on without his thumb. But yeah, I mean, like this. Like, see, I think like Will. I don't know, Ryan. I don't think that it's because you and I watched it in the year 2000. I think it definitely helps because it's. I said, I think there's a little bit of nostalgia for seeing it, but I still think it's just a funny movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it is a funny movie. I think Will was in a weird place. It's like just like say Jim Carrey is killing it in this movie. He's killing it. He's Jim carrying the shit out of this movie.
Yeah.
He's carrying it on his back is what he's doing.
Yep. That was the one.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I don't really have a super strong opinion about this. It's just like I said, I think I've said this before. Like, if for me, when a comedy is a bigger budgeted comedy, there's just something for my comedic sensibilities where like whatever's funny is cut by half. The more like kind of glossy and big budget a comedy is, the less I find it funny. There are exceptions. Like you got your Walk Hards and you're forgetting Sarah Marshall's, which are like top S tier comedy. But like this one is just something where I'm like, this is just I don't know. Just for me, it's just not my kind of thing. And it's not that I don't find gross out humor funny. It's not that I don't find physical comedy funny. I love like Chris.
Well, I mean, you picked Osmosis Jones, so we get that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think for me, like from a comedy standpoint, this was such like a checkpoint in comedy that like you have like your Austin Powers that was wildly popular and everyone was quoting it. And you have like this movie, then you have like your Anchorman and like things like that they're like keystone comedy movies that kind of push I was like, oh, this is now the funniest thing I've ever seen. At that point, I think Me, Myself, and Irene was that movie for me. It was right in my Q zone as we say.
Wow.
And it still holds up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's funny. I was surprised at how much I was laughing, and I was laughing out loud. In a room by myself at 1:00 in the morning, sitting on my sofa, laughing out loud at this. And I go, it looked fun, and like I said, like it looks like him and Renée Zellweger are having a good time in this room. They got good chemistry, which is a joy to watch. And I think Jim Carrey's Charlie and Hank switches, like you're saying, Ryan. It's like it's. I think. I couldn't do this in a million.
No, and you could just go and watch like the best of Hank on YouTube and not have to watch this movie. But I strongly recommend this movie. I like this a lot.
Yeah, I would recommend it too. Random appearance of Anna Kournikova in this movie.
Oh right, yeah. She's just being interviewed outside of the motel,
she's there and she's my boyfriend Skipper or whatever. And then he does a little. Like he's like the 60-year-old guy. Anna Kournikova. Will, you are probably too young to know who Anna Kournikova.
I know the name.
Tennis player.
Anna Kournikova was she dated I will be your hero, baby. The guy with the mole that got removed.
Enrique Iglesias.
Yes.
Yeah.
So but she was a tennis player, professional tennis player, Russian tennis player, who was like 18 years old. Okay. So all like the world went crazy for Anna Kournikova. She was like, instead of ranked number 1, I think you got the Williams sisters number 1 and 2. I mean, it couldn't be more cliche if you like. And then you've got the hot blonde Russian who's like 300th in the world, but she's getting all the sponsorships. Why? Because she's smoking hot. So it's like, it's just, wow, the world is so fucked.
Fantastic. Yeah.
It's all the grunting out there on the court.
Like. But
yeah, she was what a get for this movie.
I know,
not the Williams sisters, but
so random.
Martina Hingis was unavailable.
No, so she achieved in doubles. So she played with Martina Hingis, and actually her and Hingis got to number 1. She won Grand Slam titles in Australia and stuff like that. But and they referred to themselves as the Spice Girls of tennis. 1981. She is the same age as me, and she is still married to Enrique Iglesias. Holy shit!
Damn it. Oh, she stayed with him post mole, huh? All right. Good for her.
He still has it in like a little vial.
I like to imagine it's like how Batman had the Robin suit.
I was to say how Megan Fox has Machine Gun Kelly's blood in a vial. So trying to be a little more relevant, but sure.
Well, that's just ripping off. That's what who played Tomb Raider? Oh my
Oh,
god.
Angelina Jolie.
Lara
Yeah,
Croft.
Angelina Jolie famously did that with Billy Bob Thornton, and she was just
Oh
like,
yeah,
the vial of blood around
that's
her.
right. That was a whole thing.
That was a thing that Angelina Jolie did.
They had sex a lot.
Wore each other's blood. Celebrities, they're just like us.
Yeah. Now imagine a Mr. and Mrs. Smith with her and Billy Bob Thornton.
Dude, the new
Ooh.
one's coming out any day, isn't it?
I think February.
It's I'm looking forward to that.
That looks good.
It's gonna be fun. I'm with Ryan. I'm saying if you are listening to the podcast or watching me, myself, and Irene, if you haven't had it, if you haven't seen it, watch it.
Yeah, it's great.
Wrong. It is a very funny movie.
Mhm.
There are definitely troubling moments. It's like, it's the sons are so sweet and so caring, and they are all genius level IQs, but you gotta in times you're just uncomfortable why that they are like, where's this motherfucking electron doing here? It's like the way
Get it out of there then. It's great. It's so great. I love how intelligent they are. He's like, how you gonna get a 1400 on your SATs? Motherfucker, you need an aneurysm. That's just great. The three of them together, I would watch an entire film.
The three of them together though is so much, and the fact that they learn how to fly a helicopter because they understand. Motherfucker, it's just nothing more than like this in a rotation. It's like, well, it's in German. Motherfucker, you speak German. I speak it, I don't read it. And he's like, all right. And so he's doing Anthony
Anderson.
Yeah, Anthony Anderson angrily saying German
good.
was
So
very,
good.
very funny. Anthony Anderson is great in this movie.
He
He's
is,
always good. I love him. But he was very funny in this as Jamal Bailey Gates.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's Jamal Lee Harvey, and
Shante
Jr.
It's crazy. I'm like that. Once they said the names, I'm like, what? Come on.
It is funny, and yeah, you get into the music. We've got Foo Fighters, Smash Mouth, Third Eye Blind, Offspring. Hootie and the Blowfish. It could not. Ben Folds 5. It is so 2000s. It's almost ridiculous.
Yeah. Agreed.
But speaking
bangers.
of ridiculous, Speaking of crazy,
I need to lay down before getting into this one.
This I don't even know where, what, who, where I am, what gravity. Why is? Let's talk about the Witches of Eastwick. Okay.
And for some reason, I was confusing this movie with Practical Magic, the Sandra Bullock one.
Right.
I think,
yeah.
Another witch movie.
Yeah, but I had just seen that not recently. Yeah.
Is this a witch movie? I mean, they just accidentally...
I mean, it's in the title, you dummy.
Well, this is the thing. Okay, so whatever I thought this movie was, it was not.
Yeah.
Whatever I thought it was going to be, it was not that.
It's never clearly established that they are witches.
Right.
Besides the title. Because you don't see them, it's just a group of hot single ladies getting together and conjuring weather and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. So you're kind of introduced to them. So you got Alex, Jane, and Suki, played by Cher, Susan Sarandon, and Michelle Pfeiffer, respectively. Yeah. And that you've got Cher is a single mother of one. You've got Sandra Bullock is newly divorced, she just got divorced. It's because she couldn't have children, and Suki has 6 children.
Yeah.
And
is 31 years old or something like that.
And her husband has just left. So it's like, so it says here, unaware of being witches, they unwittingly form a coven. So they just meet weekly to talk about men. And it's that's the thing, is that it completely skips over the witch part.
Yeah,
there's no book of spells. There's no, we've got to do this. It's just, they go, did you notice that we made it rain? And then they were so they're just getting drunk and they just joke about their perfect man. And it's funny that because it's Jack Nicholson, they go, good looking. Well, just interesting looking.
Not traditionally.
Not too handsome. Yeah.
Not too handsome. Yeah. Medium-sized penis.
Yeah, and they get the whole and then Cher's eye roll about it's so funny. But it's it gets just very, very quickly. You get this again, never really expanded upon, but Suki's at the school, or Susan Sarandon's at the school, and there's the creepy teacher or the creepy headmaster who then finds out she's divorced, immediately grabs her.
It's called a principal here.
Oh, right, the principal. But yeah, they make it rain because he's just going on and droning about it.
God, that looked like the longest. They made it seem like he was talking for hours.
You got the kid dropping the cymbals and everyone's like falling asleep.
Yeah.
But then the next scene is them talking about, well, that was weird. And then, like I said, they get together, have a drink, talk about this man, and this man turns up. Jack Nicholson just suddenly turns up in town.
And no one remembers his name.
No one can remember his name. He goes and he buys this massive mansion that's there that has this sort of like interesting history. But it's just, there is no act 1, act 2, act 3. There is no like, inciting incident. The movie just happens to you. And
it's just like the middle of a movie. Like,
Right.
there's no prologue or epilogue. It just kind of thrusts you into it. I'm like, if I'm not mistaken, you get this really cool flyover of like Rhode Island, right?
Well, it comes down onto that sort of that church, doesn't it?
Church,
so you get a very nice sort of establishing shot of this very, very sort of like Rhode Island feeling.
I forgot we're supposed to be talking about the Rhode Island of all of these movies. We glazed right over that in the first 2, but I'm sure it'll come back up.
But it's like, I mean, so you guys hadn't seen this movie, right?
No.
All right, so
this is such a movie that was like, it was on a lot, but I'm like, Witches of Eastwick, this is for girls.
Right.
I'm not watching this. Boy, I wish I would have when I was younger. I probably would have watched this 1,000 times.
What about you, Will?
Yeah, it was the same thing. I think I had actually gotten this confused with The Witches with Angelica Houston, and Practical Magic as well. I think this all kind of like blended together for me in my mind, even though they were made different times. But this was a weird. I enjoyed it, but it's funny because George Miller has a wide range of like movies he can make, but that range is like amazing top tier classics, then meh movies, and then Happy Feet. Those are like his, like, that's his range.
Yeah,
I would say I would put this more in the like bangers to meh. This is right in the between of those.
We kept saying, like, as you're watching this feels like such a Robert Zemeckis, Sam Raimi type of movie.
Barry Levinson, I was thinking.
Yeah. Like, but yeah, I was thinking of Death Becomes Her for some reason, Zemeckis movie, but
I was talking about early Peter Jackson before.
Yes, early Peter.
Yeah,
you said that to me, and it got to a particular scene. I'm like, oh yeah, the cherry scene. We'll get to it.
Yeah, it was very Heavenly Creatures and stuff like that. And
great fucking movie. It looked fantastic. It was fun times. It's so insane. I was expecting, because I hadn't seen this, I think I read like the byline on it or the synopsis, and I was like, oh, this man's gonna come into town and they're all gonna like fight over each other for him, and that is not at all what happens.
No. I was sort of trying to describe it to Mrs., and I was like, it is it's like a weird fever dream where 3 women who may or may not be witches end up in a polyamorous relationship with the devil.
Yeah, they never come right out and say it, but it's pretty clear that Jack Nicholson is the devil.
I was wondering, I just thought he was like a male witch, but then he has the line where he's like, I'm just not a little devil.
Yeah. So it's the thing he turns up. So he takes the it's the Lennox Mansion, which is a site where witches were executed. It's got kind of like a weird sort of like just history to it, and then you've got like the local news sort of newspaper, which is run by Richard Jenkins, Veronica Cartwright, and then you've got Michelle Pfeiffer is one of the journalists. But it's like it's the sort of Veronica Cartwright sort of senses the evil in this sort of thing, whereas everyone else is just kind of like weirdly attracted to his weirdness, and like he goes about sort of seducing each of them. So like Cher comes by to
pretty easily.
And this thing is because he's being such a dick to Cher, and Cher's so funny that she's like, because he's like the bit where he starts, because he's also got a Lurch, like that's actually Lurch, isn't it? 100% Lurch from the Addams Family is kind of helping him in his.
Does that man ever have dialogue in any? He can be his dialogue in Men in Black, but I
think it's because he's secretly got a super high voice. Hi, how you doing? You know?
Yeah. Oh man,
he's 7 foot tall, but no. But yeah, like with Cher, that he's just being direct and goes, "Let's fuck." You know, I would like to put my penis inside you, and he's being so, like in a way that she would hate, and she is hating it, and like he starts like getting on the bed, and he's almost
fantastic.
like
Yeah.
he's
But even
killing it.
even before that, when she's riding her bicycle, and again, I think it should be stated that the size of this mansion estate is astounding compared to like how small this town is.
It's
just
about
on
the
like
size
as
of
big
Rhode
as-
Island.
yeah,
I
it's
was about to
crazy.
say, it's
So
that
she's
big,
riding his
yeah.
bike. Jack Nicholson shows up, and I mean, he is incredible. An unhinged Jack Nicholson. This is maybe, because I've never seen him in this, is maybe the best thing I've ever seen him in.
He's great.
It's
He's
so
good in this.
So
Yeah.
much fun. Like we're introduced to him like when he's snoring in the music
Yes,
performance,
yes.
like the most aggressive snoring that you sort of like.
Bravo!
Yeah,
It's great.
Yeah, like he's just he's at full maximum cocaine,
Yeah.
crazy, unhinged.
I watched this. I'm like, oh, it's the guy from Wolf.
Yeah,
Because at one point, I
Very
think
much.
he just turns into the snarling and the growling.
He
And
kind of sounds like the beast that Rick Moranis turns into in Ghostbusters.
oh yeah,
Has
Yes.
that kind of growl going on. But it's like, yeah, so then he just starts back chatting Cher and just chatting. She's just completely smitten. She's on board, and she's like talking about his amazing penis, and it bends the wrong way. And then and you know, in the meantime, he's then seduced Susan Sarandon by helping her with her fingering.
oh my god, she climaxes so hard her cello bursts into flames.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
It's
she
only
goes-
happened to me twice.
Yeah.
So you know, great he's able to do it on the first time.
But it's like, you know, she goes from like really sort of buttoned up to suddenly sexy Susan Sarandon. She's got the wild hair.
Just
and
her hair like completely changes color too. I'm like,
it just
I'm
goes
not remembering.
curly and just she lets it out.
It's
so
just
it-
down. Yeah, she
And
stops
then-
wearing a bra.
Yeah, and she's walking around.
Ooh, yeah.
And then it's the same thing with like he just like the girls sort of fighting each other, and he had that really funny tennis scene.
Oh yeah, it goes right into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like that's when he's trying to seduce Suki at the same thing, and so then the girls are getting kind
Yeah.
of jealous, and
Great.
that I have to be honest, great special or CGI, you know,
Yeah.
like visual effects work on that tennis ball.
That was Industrial Light and Magic too.
Because they were
They were
like
doing that.
they're playing on, and you tell the four of them they've planned it out,
Yeah.
but their timing is excellent. But you've got, for me, I was like, it can't be real because tennis is bloody hard. You know,
Yeah.
trust me, I
I
play
think
tennis.
They
And
had
I'm
to.
like,
I was.
You've
I
got
was
the
reading.
shadow. The
I-
shadow is perfect of the ball.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks so good. And I was reading they were all four of them were so bad at playing tennis that they had to use way more like CGI shots than they had anticipated for. So that's why a lot of
Awesome.
them are like low cuts. You don't actually see them hitting the ball, but it looked so good when they pause it. It's great for 87.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
I was
Unbelievable.
amazed by. I was like,
Yeah.
this is, and you see the ball rotating and moving and coming down, and like bits where like, you know, when Michelle Pfeiffer like bats it off her bum
Yeah.
and stuff.
Well,
like that.
this was the same year Flight of the Navigator came out too, I think. So that makes sense. Same studio.
Yeah.
Which we
Makes
did get
total
together
sense.
and watch.
Also starring Veronica Cartwright.
Yes. We didn't
Oh,
even
I
watch that
forgot.
for the
I forgot we
podcast.
didn't watch that. We didn't watch that for
That wasn't for the podcast.
No,
yeah.
we
Oh,
just
we
watched
yeah,
it
because we
for
got to all
fun.
just watch that.
Yeah, subscribe to our
was
subscribe
awesome.
to our Patreon if you want to hear us talk about Flight of the Navigator.
Yeah, and you do because that movie was great.
It's so good.
But then, like,
But-
so it's very sort of randomly, sort of quickly established that they sort of end up in this. They're all just living with him in this massive sort of mansion, and it's only, like I said, it's only sort of Veronica Cartwright who seems to sort of sense the evil, and she sort of mocks his name, and suddenly she falls and she breaks her leg, and she's got like
Yeah.
a compound fracture. Out
You
of
don't
her
see it
leg.
though. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
it's,
You know, that was-
you do see it when she's on the floor, but everyone just looks at her. She goes, "I think I broke my leg."
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then, like,
nobody goes to help her.
yeah, they
Very
don't.
weird.
That's what I found so weird.
So
Everyone's just
strange.
looking at her.
Yeah.
She's falling
It's an
down.
insane fall too. Like I
Yeah.
mean, she slips on her pearls. I think Michelle Pfeiffer's pearls fall off, and then she slips on them and
Mhm.
has this insane tumble down these stairs.
It's a good.
Again, in such like a Sam Raimi-esque, or I guess a
Yeah.
George Miller kind of way. It's
Yeah,
fucking like, whoa,
It
it's
is-
shot
it-
so well.
It's a little bit just crazy, but then we get to sort of like, and there's this kind of undercurrent of evil. Like I said, it never fully goes. It's not horror, you know, necessarily. It's like, but it's still.
The ending was pretty
uncomfortable.
horrifying.
Sorry.
The ending was pretty horrifying.
Yeah, I know. We'll get there. But it's the cherry scene.
Oh
So like,
my
oh yeah,
god.
so they all get together and they start eating cherries, but it starts manifesting at Veronica Cartwright, who's in like
Oh
church or something like that.
no, they're at home, right?
they're at
at
home.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And and she's talking about the evil. You don't sense the evil. And Richard Jenkins, he started drinking. He's not paying attention to her. And every time one of the ladies, the witches, are eating these cherries, these cherry pits and pips start coming out of her mouth, and she's like burping, and then it just escalates and escalates, and then it gets to Peter Jackson, Sam Raimi levels of like, you know, all these pits are coming out, and it's almost like Exorcist style.
There's a shot, which I come to learn later, is like they built like an entire prosthetic of her character.
Bring that up, yeah.
And I couldn't fucking tell. I was like, it's insane. Like,
because you see a bit where it's coming out of her mouth, and I go, well,
yeah, and she's like flailing around, yeah.
You know,
that's what I thought. I'm like, how did they do that? They just gave her a bunch of Ipecac, and she just
yeah.
So that's how they built a fake her.
Yeah.
This movie's so far ahead of its time.
Yeah. It's nuts.
Yeah. So much fun stuff. I will.
I guess you could say it's practical magic. Stupid.
One of my favorite parts. It's easy to get me like comedically with good sound design, and perfectly timed sound design. Wet Hot American Summer does this a lot. With anytime something falls off screen or is thrown off screen, you hear the vase break.
Plot break, yeah.
There's a part where like it's where Susan Sarandon and Cher are like at the mansion now, and they see Suki is now like gonna go off with Jack. This is right before the tennis scene.
Oh yeah.
And Susan Sarandon has a martini glass. And the thing about it is the scene, they're on the lawn. They're on grass. And there's a sound design moment where Susan Sarandon throws the martini glass down and it breaks.
It's that sound
effect.
It's that sound effect.
So
I heard
funny.
that too. I was like, ooh, I did like the Leonardo DiCaprio where I pointed at the TV. Yes, the sound effect only Will and I would recognize.
It was so funny. It's like in True Lies, when my favorite sound effect ever, where Bill Paxton's pouring them champagne and they toast, and it's a plastic thunk. Such a funny sound design thing. Kills me every time. So it was like that level funny.
Yeah, that's such a great one. That's the clunk of the two cups, because the penthouse in New York's too hot. We're gonna have to go to my other safe house. The double
just
wide
a trailer.
And even before the vomitous scene, you have, because you get that break after she breaks her leg, and then she's in the hospital, and then has that insane outburst in the church where she's like listing all of the horrific things they're doing in this mansion. Anal sex. And I'm like, this sounds awesome. What are you talking about, lady?
Where's this happening? Let's leave church. Go to that.
I am on board.
I totally forgot and missed like that Richard Jenkins kills her with the fire poker.
Yeah.
It's
that was like crazy.
It's just suddenly like,
and then just goes back and sits down in his chair.
Yeah, it's wild. It's that's what I mean, is this movie just like, it's never takes the time to explain the why.
No, it's all curveballs.
It just is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Which is this sort of like.
But that said, it's so fucking enjoyable because it can't be understated how cuckoo bananas bonkers crazy this movie is. It's wild.
Did anyone else experience it? Because it is a 2-hour movie. It felt 45 minutes long. I couldn't believe when the movie was over. I go, surely there's another act. Surely there's half an hour left. But
I felt almost the opposite, like it was like 30 minutes too long for me.
Really?
Yeah.
For me, it shot by, because like I said, there's no like, there's no.
I mean, it goes at a breakneck pace, but the last 30 minutes of it were a bit of a, I know it's crazy to say because a lot happens, felt very sluggish.
I think because the structure of this movie, like there really wasn't a structure. It was very much stream of consciousness almost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I did have to pause a couple of times to be like, how far are we into this movie? Because like my sense of time is off.
And that's I wanted to do that. And I said, I said, don't do it, Ollie. Like, be surprised. Because I wanted to pause and see, you know, and
that's true.
10 minutes later, I was like, I was convinced we had 40 minutes or 30 minutes left in this movie.
I kept doing that with Osmosis Jones, and I was just disappointed in myself.
Damn it, we have another hour and 59 minutes.
There's 90 minutes left? But yeah, this movie does go at a breakneck, but it also feels like a bunch of vignettes because like these scenes aren't really like stitched together very well. Like
it's not at all.
The three of them show up outside of Veronica Cartwright's house because they hear that she died. And then they get into an argument. The ground seemingly opens below them, and then there's a shot where three of them just run away.
In different directions.
Like what?
They are quickly the interplay between Cher, Michelle Pfeiffer, Susan Sarandon. These ladies are so good at their jobs. They're so on top of the game, and in this particular roles, they look like they're having a great time.
And I was reading, I think Cher and Susan Sarandon's character were switched at like the last minute. So when Susan Sarandon showed up on set, that she was like playing someone else, they fucking hated each other for a little bit.
Yeah, I read that too.
Could never tell. But
they made the right choice though, because like Cher, her whole character, her in this movie, it was like an instant crush for me. I'm like, oh my god, she is like, 10 out of 10. Oh yeah, fantastic.
Hey, they kept saying she has a daughter in this movie. Do you ever meet that daughter? Am I misremembering that?
They kept bringing that up. I never saw the kid. Was the kid in it?
Is she like a teen or something, or she's just like you never see it? She doesn't really feature.
Right. I just assumed she was like lobbed in with one of Michelle Pfeiffer's 6 children.
Right. And I kept forgetting she had children until they were on screen. I was like, oh yeah.
There was a bit when they're all living together at the end that I think that Cher's kid is looking after the other 6.
Right. I was wondering that too, but she would have been the only kid with black hair, right?
Right.
But she's like not. Yeah. You're right. It's just not important. It's like I said in this movie. It goes, who cares?
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
Yeah.
Fuck it. The ground's exploding. Then the girls go off in different directions.
It is like a fever dream, even when Jack Nicholson is seducing Michelle Pfeiffer's character. Like they're all at the pool, and the 3 of them are floating in the pool, and then Susan Sarandon and Cher just kind of float away, and you don't see them. And the rest, like they just
it's like they're not there.
Yeah. It's bizarre, but I'm into it.
Well, the thing, absolutely. Don't take anything that we're saying as criticism of this movie. It's just so original. I cannot say this movie reminds me of any other movie. Like there's nothing like
I kept thinking of other movies, but because this was the genesis for it. Like I mentioned earlier, I was thinking of The Craft, Practical Magic. Fuck, there was a third, like a Hocus Pocus. Like it's always the same thing. So I was expecting something completely different from this movie, not realizing this was the start of it all. But then at some point they're just like, you know what, Jack Nicholson, we don't like you no mo's. And then then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, it goes. So yeah, exactly. So the ladies that they're worried about, the death of Nancy Cartwright, Veronica Cartwright, and so they run off to they stop paying him attention. He goes, suddenly becomes a very sort of jealous incel almost, of just like you should be paying me attention, and so starts kind of like cursing them. So Cher's character suddenly wakes up covered in snakes because it's like her big thing. Susan Sarandon, she ages rapidly. Suki is in phenomenal pain, ends up in the hospital kind of thing.
It was crazy when he shows up to her house and it looks like they don't tell you anything. It just, she looks like she was beaten up. Like she's all bruised up. Like you can see it.
Yeah, it's like she's got cold sores or something. Yeah. It's that weird unexplained thing as well that's going on.
I kept thinking I missed something. I was like, did my DVD skip? Like, I do
love the production of this. Like, all 3 of their houses are so fantastic. Like, Susan Sarandon's got like this tiny little, almost like Jim Carrey's house and Me, Myself, and Irene. Yeah, it's just this little tiny, Rhode Island, baby. And Cher's house is like so precariously on running water that I was like, oh, this is a fucking nightmare. And the opening of the movie is in pouring rain. Like, this house is gone.
Yeah.
But I love that bit where he goes to each one of their houses, trying to like explain to himself.
He's trying to give him gifts. He's trying to give him flowers.
He calls Cher and she's in bed, and he shows up to, was it Susan Sarandon's house second, and she's not there. Leaves a note with a giant D written in fucking blood or red paint, whatever.
Yeah, he put it on a musical sheet.
Yeah, he goes from like 0 to 100. But it is important to point out that Veronica Cartwright's character, before she dies, claims that he's using them because he wants 3 sons.
Yeah.
Right? Like but it's never explained why. I mean, it's just
right. And then so they're all in pain, they all end up in hospital, and then they all find out that they're pregnant.
Yeah.
So they're all pregnant. So like, and this is kind of what I mean is that I was saying, you guys, is that it's okay, so we've set up that the devil has impregnated these 3 ladies.
Tight.
Doesn't matter. Like there's no what's going to happen. There's no like implications to the world. There's no world ending.
It's just never said why Michelle Pfeiffer's character can get pregnant so easily. I don't know if that's like a thing.
That's
but
just she goes, she even jokes about it. But it's
yeah,
like,
she's like, I'll get pregnant if I share your toothbrush.
yeah.
First
I
of
mean,
all,
but the thing is,
gross.
Mrs. and I joke
Yeah.
that if you walk in between us, you'll get pregnant. Like I said, we are way too fertile. That's why I'm like, I'm getting a goddamn vasectomy. Just take it all, like, because we get pregnant way too easy.
What's a
So
weird
it
thing to brag
happens,
about?
but then you've
Yeah.
got remember, Susan Sarandon like can't have kids, but now
Yeah.
she is pregnant. So
Right.
then they realize that like they can only remove, and they have this realization, but it's not explained as to why. But they realize they're going to have to use their witch powers that again have never been explained, never been explored.
No.
They just seem to have them. They figure out that they get a book from somewhere.
Yeah,
realize-
his library, like it's like the fucking Necronomicon. And
Yeah,
they're like,
Right.
it's right here.
and they
It's in the house the whole time.
They make a voodoo doll, including erection, which
Yeah, I love that. I love the little
That was
candle.
funny.
The little
That's
wax
so
PP
funny.
was fantastic.
Yeah.
But that's when it gets crazy, and I have to be honest that it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like all of the interplay with Jack Nicholson and the voodoo doll, like when they throw it
Oh my
around, he gets
gosh,
thrown
so good.
around.
So
When
good.
like his acting, when they're like I mean, someone else take this one. Like talk about that.
So the other movie I was thinking of, Teen Witch, because it also has a similar like voodoo doll scene. It made me think of that.
Mhm.
Or she makes the guy walk through the car wash and she puts the doll on. It doesn't matter. But yeah, they make this like again, it's never explicitly explained what their powers are. They just bewitching. And they make this wax figurine again with anatomically correct. I thought that was so funny because they kept like throwing this thing and dropping it, but the little pee-pee kept hanging on there.
Yeah.
Right, like, and then all of a sudden there's a dog in this house that you never
Yeah.
see before.
Right.
ever.
The dog not only there, but is like a character and is like
Yeah.
reacting to
And
things.
is super into this candle wax figurine. And they're like poking it and they're putting feathers on it. And all the while, like the interplay, like you said, between Jack Nicholson doing this insane physical work. Like he's like, the ladies want bagels and ice cream. So he goes into town with Lurch. He goes into he buys the bagels and the salmon or smoked salmon. He goes into the ice cream place and then smashes his hand, like he stabs himself in the leg. Or no, I'm sorry.
He gets stabbed.
Right.
He
They
gets-
stab the doll.
yeah.
And he like doubles over. And they do something to his hand and he smashes his hand into the ice cream. It's fucking mental.
And
It's
it just
Yeah.
gets crazy from there.
It
Like
does.
he's getting blown in the wind. He starts like feathers out of his mouth, and then he has his own cherry pit scene where he's in, and he has this massive monologue inside the church, full Jack
great.
Nicholson, while
Is
spitting,
that
vomiting
my
on
God,
people.
it's
and-
incredible. Is that before or after his Mad Max style car sequence?
Before, because
Before, yeah.
the Mad Max scene
Which-
happens to get back to the thing. And I was
Oh
waiting.
my
I was like, it's
God.
George Miller. Is he going to do anything with cars?
Oh my
yep.
God.
And he
Yeah.
does it well.
There's a shot where the stunt driver is thrown out of the back of the car and it looks like he almost got ripped underneath.
Yeah.
Like he was hitting the pavement, which blew my mind.
And it's a
is-
George Miller movie, so he probably
know,
did
yeah.
almost die.
Yeah.
but
God.
didn't.
I gotta
Um,
watch the Fury Road again.
Yeah, but that whole, I mean,
Yeah.
all of that, him being cursed is like 20 minutes of nuts.
It's
and it
so
starts,
long.
and it getting crazier and crazier. And then he's in the car, and like, so they're throwing it around, and the dog's trying to get it. So he's reacting to it, and he sort of peels up. And that's when, and this is the moment where I was like, my jaw dropped, and I said, I can't wait for you guys, because he's starting to mutate a bit. He's got one like almost werewolfy hand and a
But
werewolfy.
why?
Who cares? And he's like, and he's growling, and he's coming through, and he looks like the wolf man.
The
He's
other
sweaty.
thing, they're like trying to cover up the fact that they were performing this ceremony. Like they're sweeping up all the feathers to make it look like they weren't doing it. Why? Like, I mean, their whole goal is like as they say, it's like to make him just go away to disappear, right?
Yeah.
And why would they have to clean up their mess and like they put him in the cookie jar and
Yeah. It's all the
fucking
just in
wild.
case of it all.
I
But then
guess.
it gets so crazy when the doll gets broken into pieces.
Yeah.
And And that's when, I mean, I don't know. That's when it's like you're sniffing glue or whatever.
I don't know what I was expecting. Like I thought they'd open the door and he would just be like in pieces, but like moving around. But no. They managed to subvert my expectations and do something fucking crazy.
Yeah. Just literally, it's like it. It's like Stephen King's It.
Yeah.
Like it's no longer the clown. It now just transforms.
I feel like they didn't really know what to do with the ending of this movie. But there's other shots too where the wind is blowing and you see the three of them like fly around the corner of this staircase, and it's like the stunt work is crazy. It's so good. And then Susan Sarandon's character falls over the thing, but they like quick laugh, you can fly, and they're like, okay.
And again, I was like,
sure.
Did we establish that in the movie that if they laugh, they fly? And the thing about it is you never care. That's this movie.
No,
constantly on this ride. You go, whatever.
It's crazy
But it's like, that's when I was like, it reminded me of Peter Jackson, because what is the Peter Jackson movie? I think it's called Bad Taste. I think it's called, it's the one that has the lawnmower scene.
Oh, no, it's Dead Alive, right?
Dead Alive, which ends up with a giant sort of pregnant sort of like monster in the house. That was very evocative of this.
Yeah,
what happens
that's true.
to Jack Nicholson is suddenly he's this massive, deformed, slightly pregnant mutant thing that's sort of like attacking the house, and a fire starts. And then you have that moment when what do? They melt it, or what do they do?
I think it just falls into the fire in it.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. No, they throw it into the fire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to destroy it.
But then you get that little. What would you describe him as?
I said they turn him into a little Quato.
That's it, a Quato / turnip / sperm. That's just
he like turns around and like winks and then just disappears.
And then just and just disappears.
So like I was saying, I was watching this on DVD, and the video quality on the DVD I had was so bad that when that scene happened, like where he was like that little potato Quato thing, I couldn't understand what I was looking at. Like the pixelation was so bad.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
I don't even know.
I thought so too. It does, because it doesn't even look
what
like
am I
him.
seeing? Yeah. So I had to go online and watch like a high res kind of to understand what I was even looking at.
And still unclear.
See,
didn't help. No.
Like we're describing him as a Quatato, which I quite like. But
you say Quato, I say tomato.
Is that classic? But in this one, they describe him as a shriveled homunculus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
That's what I would create if I was asked to create a.
Which for our listeners at home, don't Google that.
Yeah, don't look that up. It's
I looked it up. It's Hottentot apron. No, don't Google that.
No.
Yeah. So that's when suddenly like, okay, again, so you don't know how long the movie's been going. You don't know. So then he pops out of existence, and you're like, okay, what's going to happen now? And then we kind of flash forward an undetermined amount of time, but the babies have been born. We've got the three boys like in the bath together.
It's maybe like
six to
8 months, something like that.
Yeah, they're all in the. They're all in the mansion.
They're still in the house. They were like, well, we're keeping this.
Their sister wives in the house. They're all raising the children together. And then you have this sort of moment where the three babies go running off in their little like romper things that enable them to get around. And they all go into the same room, that TV room, where there's like 20 TVs, and they're all Jack Nicholson. They all turn into Jack Nicholson. He's like, hey, kiddos, how you doing? You know, say hi to daddy. And then the three ladies come in and they just turn the TVs off. Credits.
It fucking nuts.
Yep. What's there to explain? It's right there.
Everything. It's just. That's what I'm saying is I find the movie so brave.
My jaw was on the floor after going through all that and then getting that ending. I was just this again. Like I said, after watching this movie, it's consumed me. It's all I can think about.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been asking for that dodgeball ending of just cut to credits.
We fucking got it. We got it.
And it was incredible.
I was going to go back and say, I wish we got that ending in Osmosis Jones, because there's a bit where Bill Murray's character fucking dies.
Yes.
And they cut to the girl and she's Harley Quinn for some reason. And she's just crying. Credits would have been, that would have elevated this to a phenomenal thing. But yes, we got that ending with arguably the best of the most memorable movie we watched this week.
Yeah.
Apparently it's based off a novel.
The John Updike novel, like no less, which I didn't know he wrote like fantasy and stuff, or like whatever genre you would make this as.
This
Yeah, I
isn't a
didn't realize
This isn't a biography.
This
There's
is
a
what happened.
1984 novel that got adapted almost immediately into a movie. And
And they tried to make some TV shows out of it too, I think.
like it was interesting because like the critical response, like I saw like the audience and critical score, like the tomatometer and the audience score were both like around 65, 67%. And I think it's just people going, I enjoyed it. I don't know what to make of it. I
Yeah.
don't know what just happened. Kind of like what Ryan said, like, is it because my jaw literally did. There was one. It was the scene where it was just getting a bit crazy, and I literally went, like, my jaw. Like, what is happening? What am I watching? But I, instead of being frustrated with it, instead of being angry at it, instead of being like, like Will, like just I should dissect this or explain what's. I'm just
I just let myself go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just let it take.
I'm on, much like George Miller's Mad Max Fury Road. I was just along for the ride. That's like all his movies. I was just like, I'm into it. I'm like, I couldn't even stop mid-movie to process what I was seeing. I just had to kind of let myself be taken by it.
Yeah. That's kind of the theme with like a lot of his films, like, from his like bangers to like his not so great ones. Like, what was that last one he did with the genie? 1,000 Years of Longing.
3,000 Years of Longing. After watching this movie, I wanted to immediately watch that movie.
I saw it in the theater. I didn't enjoy it, but I might watch it again just after watching this. But that was kind of like a lot of the same thing. I don't think it was as effective. Like that movie also kind of didn't have a beginning or an end.
That's where she's in the hotel with Idris Elba, right?
Yeah, and
Idris
I
Elba's.
think it was a COVID movie, right?
Something like that, yeah. But it's also that movie is also very, very strange in a different way. Just as imaginative, just as weird. But George Miller, he just does not care for story structure or anything like that. And sometimes, unless he's making unless he's making like a movie specifically for families, then he's like, okay, this will have a structure of some kind. But like, thank God the Mad Max movies are like, we're not even to care about continuity. Like we just want to show you something awesome, and that's
we just want to make movies
better for it.
Yes. No irony. Absolutely.
Yeah. Is Furiosa come out this year?
Yeah.
God, I hope so. Yeah. So stoked.
Yeah.
Totally
I want it to be awesome, but I mean,
I'm just to see Chris Hemsworth play that. He's like unrecognizable in the trailer. I know Ali doesn't watch trailers, but I had to stop and be like, oh my God, that's Chris Hemsworth.
Is he a young Immortan Joe? Is that it?
I think
there's another. Morton Joe's in it, obviously, but it's not Hemsworth.
Obviously.
It'd be weird if it. I mean, it would also be very George Miller to be like, ignore Fury Road and just be like, this is just a Furiosa story.
It's Jack Nicholson is.
Oh my God.
What's his name was Daryl
Van Horn.
Daryl.
That's what I thought.
I didn't even put it together.
Even like this, I couldn't. I still can't remember Daniel Van Horn.
Daryl Van Horn. Daryl Van. I didn't want to ruin it for you guys because I wanted to send all these Daryl gifts. Going, there's one thing this movie doesn't need.
Yes.
Daryls.
Finally, we can like work that into every episode we do.
This is actually grown up Daryl. This is like he grew up to be the devil. That's what happened.
Oh my God.
That's why his mom is in this movie. See?
So there you go. Actually, you're right. So I'm seeing this, Ryan, that story that you were telling is that Cher insisted on getting the role that was given to Susan Sarandon. So they gave in to her demands, and Susan Sarandon didn't discover it until she turned up on location.
But I can't picture it the other way. Like,
I think it works. I think I like that Susan Sarandon goes from kind of like the buttoned up to then the sexy Susan Sarandon that just something about Susan Sarandon, like in the same way.
She becomes her character in Bull Durham.
Bull Durham,
right?
exactly.
That's all I can think about.
Where she's just effortlessly sexy and just confident and just like, has control over the people around her kind of thing.
She's got that like Southern kind of girl next door look. And she's I mean, everyone in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, that's you're not wrong. I mean, I've said it before, but Veronica Cartwright is stealing every scene she's in.
Kills it.
The three ladies are so talented and they work great together.
Veronica Cartwright, who plays like Ned Flanders' wife, kind of in The Simpsons, like that very buttoned up church going lady that she's like, I can see the devil, he's here.
Very Maud Flanders,
Maud Flanders, thank you.
And it ends the same way.
Oh yeah.
She gets hit with a fucking t-shirt cannon. That's fucking crazy that's what they. Spoiler alert if you don't watch The Simpsons, but
Yeah, if
Jesus.
you haven't watched Simpsons in 20 years,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Don't start now.
This, I
Yeah.
think, is a movie that I almost sort of wish I'd purchased because I feel like I need to watch it again. And it's an imperfect movie that finds its perfection in
That's a fun
its,
watch. I would
just all of the things that we've said about this movie would usually be criticisms. Why is this dog? Why this? There's no explanation as to that. They never give any background for the. We're just going, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I don't know why. Like because usually we're pretty.
Yeah.
We're pretty
How
on
does
it
this
when it comes
movie
to
get
this stuff.
away with all of the crimes it's committing that we would usually be all over?
This is such a movie that all used to have like movie parties at your house. And this is like such a movie that you would have a showing for, and Zen would make like cherry themed things laced with something. I don't know.
Yeah,
to get us all
it would be like
filled.
she'd be molding everything, the cookies, but they'd all have little peepees on them.
Yes, well, obviously, she should already be doing that. But like, just to circle back on that, I think this is like such a movie that can like be a fun viewing party for people. Like, get the girls together, make like a giant gallon of fucking martinis.
Agreed.
Whatever they're drinking.
I think it'd be a great
fun.
ladies' night party. I like because you get those little interplays of the women just talking like women do.
Mhm.
You know, just talking and being honest and being open and being like, oh, this sucks and this is, and then it's like, and talking about penises and talking about men and
A lot of penis talk in this movie.
but it's like, but okay, like,
But not enough. But
hang around
not
groups
but
of
not
women.
enough. Yeah.
There's usually lots of penis talk. But it was like, and yeah, we haven't also mentioned John Williams doing the score.
Oh my god. Yeah.
It's
And
just like,
Vilmos Zsigmond is the DP on this. It looked fucking fantastic.
double check.
Yeah, it was such a good looking
Yes,
movie.
Vilmos Zsigmond.
Famous for something. I just recognized the name, like, and the movie does have this like great look to it.
You recognize that? Best known for Close Encounters of the Third Kind and The Deer Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And Jersey Girl. Most people don't know that.
Really?
Yes. That's why this is the best looking Kevin Smith movie.
He won Academy Award for Close Encounters. He's been nominated for Deer Hunter, River, Black Dahlia. He did Deliverance.
Oh fuck! 2 bangers we've had on this podcast.
Yeah, wow. Okay, The Ghost in the Darkness. I like that movie.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Is it the Michael Douglas Lion?
Val
movie?
Kilmer. That's why Val Kilmer didn't come back as Batman.
Yeah.
I like that movie. This movie, of all three, I think it's almost, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
If
We're
you
still talking about
haven't-
it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, you have to watch it. Find it, rent it, watch it, get a group together. Send us your thoughts on this movie because it's just I always want to talk to my mum because much like Ryan said, is this movie has been on my mind all week since I watched it. I'm just like, what the? And I remember my mum was watching this movie. Like I said, I was 9 or 10 years old. Where is this? 87. So there you go. I'm like 6, 7 years old. So it's on TV. So I'm 9. I'm almost nailed it. And mum's watching it, and I've come in and out, and just I'm being entertained by the randomness of it. But I just assumed it was much more of a women empowerment, and we're taking down the devil, and it having a very sort of generic approach. There's nothing generic about this movie.
It does. It feels like almost like The Evil Dead. Like it's kind of it's super dark at times, but still has that like comedy film over it.
Yeah, like the way that like Veronica Cartwright dying and vomiting, that scene is comedically dark. It's very dark comedy.
Super fucked up, but it's hilarious because again, like the slapsticky kind of vibe and the way it's shot again feels like very Sam Raimi-ish, I think. Or George Miller.
So I'm like, if you're getting anything out of this episode of the podcast, is that The Witches of Eastwick is an immediate watch.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
It is, of all three, I think it is the most original, even though me, myself, and Irene, I laughed like the most in and stuff.
Yeah.
The Witches of Eastwick confounded me.
I had the most enjoyment, not only watching this movie, but texting you guys throughout the entire watch of how I was feeling.
It's such a fun movie. If I can share one story I read about online, because I'm writing a bunch of video essays, and this is a topic that's going to come up in one of them, which is John Peters produced this movie. And John Peters is one of these guys, I'm not going to go into too much, but He's this guy I learned about. If anybody is a Kevin Smith fan, and
Oh,
you've
is he
seen,
the spider guy?
he's the spider guy. He's the guy who like suggested that Superman Return should end with a giant spider. Good thing that never showed up in a real movie.
Yeah,
But
because he then put it in Wild Wild West, didn't he?
yes,
That's right.
and famously, he finally got his way in The Flash, where that exact scene happens.
Yeah, with Nicolas Cage.
Thank God that happened. Yeah, it was great. So
We
John
did it.
Peters, that's John Peters, and the video I'm making, I'm going to go way into more detail about him because he's such a fascinating guy who crops up. Also, if you've seen Licorice Pizza, Bradley Cooper, that's who he's playing.
Oh shit.
That's John
Okay.
Peters. And the behind the scenes I read about this movie is he like randomly in the middle of production decided that this movie needed to have an alien in it,
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
like had an
right.
actor show up in like an alien suit to try to force him into the movie. And George Miller and Jack Nicholson just ignored him until like he was getting assistant, and then they threatened to just walk off the movie. But he was like dead set on, even though it made
He's
no
like, we've
sense.
already got Veronica Cartwright. We need the alien.
Right. Yes, exactly. So
What were, like,
that's the
oh,
kind of guy John Peters is just
He's a fascinating weirdo, isn't he? He sounds like one of these.
It's
It's
so
kind of
odd.
like that famous story of the producer behind Back to the Future wanting to
Oh.
call it Spaceman from Outer Space or whatever, like Planet Nine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg writing back a memo and CCing everyone going, "We had such a good laugh at your joke memo.
Yeah.
That was hilarious."
Yeah.
But it's like, it's because they're thinking, because Miller thinks that Peters was influenced by the box office success of Aliens the year before. And that
Yeah.
he's like, he turned up with a stuntman dressed as an alien and said, put him in a scene, any scene.
And I like to picture
Yeah.
not like they got a full-on xenomorph costume, but it was just like a gray spandex with like an alien mask, like
Right.
the most generic.
Get it from a Halloween store.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's fucking
Like-
hilarious. There's
Yeah. So watch the Licorice Pizza scene with Bradley Cooper, and then you'll be like, of course that guy would make this.
Yeah, but he walked so Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer could fly.
destroy everyone. Yeah, leave a path of destruction behind.
But like,
yeah.
so apparently test
Hold my
audience
Coke.
displeased with the original ending, prompting several versions of the ending to be. What was
I need to see it. I need all
Yes.
of it. I need all of
I
them.
must know.
And this is the ending that they landed on? That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
Credits. Bill Murray was originally cast
Crazy.
as Daryl Van Horn.
I can't see anyone else but Jack Nicholson like having
I
that
know.
manic energy.
I don't think Bill Murray could have pulled off the scary. It's just, that
No.
crazy Jack Nicholson eyes where he's kind of doing The Shining.
Yeah.
He's kind of doing, the Joker. He's just got those crazy fucking eyes and those insane
You can
eyebrows.
see that involvement, like whether it's Wolf or Joe, like you can see everything after this, like kind of makes sense from seeing this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, this is something I noticed in the movie, and then I noticed that they rolled with it. So it's the bit, it was so perfect. But it's where the ladies are like, the devils come. So Daryl's come back to the house. They're running around. They've cleaned up, and they all run into this room to be casual. And as they're doing, you notice Michelle Pfeiffer knocks the lamp and
the lamp,
smashes.
yeah.
But I could tell like she'd done it by accident. Like,
Yeah.
and the lady's reactions were all real. And I was like, oh shit, I don't think that was supposed to happen. And then the next time they cut in, they just roll with it. The
Yeah.
broken lamp's on the
There's
floor.
just a pillow
She's
on it,
casually
right?
like covered
Yeah.
it with
Yeah.
a rug.
Great. Yeah.
And she's
I
just
didn't notice
sitting.
that too. I didn't think that actually happened. That's great.
No, so then I found it is like because it was such a good bit, they kept it in. It's kind of the same way that Robin Williams slips
Yes.
over in the birdcage. It says, it's fine, keep going,
Great.
keep going.
Oh,
And like, it's just sometimes you get, it's Donald Glover.
comedy gold, yeah.
Donald Glover slipping and falling in The Martian, where he's initially,
right.
he drank coffee, he spits and he does a full-on flip, gets up, and they just keep rolling. And it's like sometimes you get magic in those moments.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments I go, that was real. And
That's awesome.
turns out it was.
So good.
And I think also Rutger Hauer he really wanted the role in that.
He'd be
the
good.
Jack Nicholson role. Yeah.
I could see
I can
that.
see Rutger Hauer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
That
And then he
would-
went on to do Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I always forget he's like the main bad in that
Yeah.
movie. And he's fucking great.
He's great.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie not so much, but he's great.
No, dog.
So here you go. You guys are like this,
Uh,
considering you guys were mixing it up. Angelica Houston
Right.
was
Yes.
passed over for the role that went to Cher, but of course she turns up later as the Grand Witch.
She's like, I'll show you. I'll do my own witch movie.
in The Witches.
Yeah.
That was
Um,
that was before this though, right?
No, The Witches came in 1990.
No shit. I don't know why I
Oh,
thought that was
wow.
like 85. I thought that was way earlier. It just maybe it looks like a crappier version of this movie.
Okay, I've got to read you this bit. This is weird and funny, and I like this. The opening shot, zooming in on the town of Eastwick, the fictional town, Ryan, that you referenced earlier, was originally supposed to feature a seagull. Visual effects supervisor had great difficulty finding a suitable bird. The plan was to acquire a taxidermy type bird and put animatronics, but it turned out to be illegal to own a dead seagull in California. They were able to borrow one, but another law stated it had to be returned to its legal owner in the same condition it came in. And after turning the bird into a rod puppet of sorts, the team spent weeks perfecting the motion with up to 10 puppeteers working simultaneously. And in the end, none of their work ends up on screen because the opening credits were added to the shot and the seagull was found too distracting.
Oh my God.
Wow.
If that doesn't boil down just how crazy this movie is, I don't know what does. That's such a great
And this movie had $150 million budget.
Yeah. My God.
Worth every penny.
Let's have a look.
That's crazy to think, like, because there had been like decent. That seems like such a crazy effect to have to bend over backwards.
The Witches of Eastwick is a $20 million movie. So of all the movies, it was the one with the lowest budget. Yeah, Me, Myself, and Irene's 50 million. Osmosis Jones is 70 million. The Witches of Eastwick, 22 million, made $63 million.
I wonder what their salary, like what they paid the main actors, because in this movie, because that's crazy to think that, like
20 mil, yeah.
Yeah. You'd think they would get like 20, like nowadays they'd get like 20 million each.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson, especially at that point in his
career. Well,
career.
because he's a man, he would get 60 million.
So
rightfully so. Yeah.
So weirdly, so what would you like? I know we're saying, would you say that The Witch of Eastwick of the three is the best movie, even though that we're saying watch it for sure because it's bonkers? Would you say it's the best movie? Will's saying yes. If you're listening, he's nodding his head.
Wow.
What do you say, Ryan? Because I love Me, Myself, and Irene. I think is it's a good movie. I think but it's the fact that it stuck with us. The Witch of Eastwick, I think, is what makes it.
It's crazy. I haven't had a movie do that in quite a while, where I'm like, for days after, I'm still thinking about this movie because it is so truly insane.
Mm-hmm. I think, I'm with you on that one. I'm with you. But there is another element to this podcast where we have to pick one of these movies to represent Rhode Island. Now, spoiler alert, none of these movies were shot in Rhode Island. They were shot in, let me double check, Massachusetts. Features a lot in The Witches of Eastwick is Massachusetts. So is Osmosis Jones is Massachusetts. Me, Myself, and Irene a lot of it is shot in Vermont. Now, of course, it's New England. It's something that we've been getting into, and it's the same as the problem that we're getting into in some of the plains states, is like that we were getting a lot of corn. We were doing Iowa, and we're doing, all these sort of things, lots of corn turning up. And then in this case, we're in New England, but you've got, the undercurrent of Me, Myself, and Irene is all very much the fact that he is a Rhode Islander. Their way of thinking, they're always talking about the Rhode Island, the fact that it seems like an innocent, charming, sort of quaint, naive, white place to live, and you kind of get that same feeling in The Witches of Eastwick. It's a very quaint, it's very, the same sort of New England feel. The very first sort of shot you really get inside the church, everybody's white. It's that same kind of vibe. And then Osmosis Jones, okay, technically it takes place in Rhode Island, but most of the movie takes place inside Bill Murray's body. So I'm willing to say that, honestly, of them all, Osmosis Jones, we can just cut that one off.
Yep.
Kick it out of the podcast, kick it out of the country, kick it out of movie history. Just get rid of it. Just dump it.
But I think it's an interesting two-way fight for me between the Witches of Eastwick having a very, very, it's a fictional town, but it features that town, it features the people, it features the vibe, it's on the water, it's got the green trees kind of element, and the small town afraid of the new guy thing. But Me, Myself, and Irene is sort of taking that small town innocent sort of thing and putting it on an adventure. So what are you guys thinking?
It's so funny that one of them, the core of it is the heart and soul, and the core of it is Rhode Island, and the other one just feels the most Rhode Island, and that's Me, Myself, and Irene, and The Witches respectively. Like I'm watching the Witches of Eastwick, I was like, oh, this just feels like a Rhode Island. Like it just felt more Rhode Islandy to me. That said, it's shocking to me that this wasn't set in like Salem for some odd reason. Like it could have just been
Right.
set in like
Yeah.
Massachusetts. Like why did it didn't need to be Rhode Island. It really didn't add anything to this movie versus Me, Myself, and Irene, which, like you said, his core tenets are that he's from Rhode Island. He's like the Rhode Island State Police. Like that's a very core thing
Yeah.
to this movie. And it still has that kind of Rhode Islandy feel.
I agree. The thing is, if the
Yeah.
Rhode Island is, that's why Ryan and I's initial, as soon as we said Rhode Island, both of us, we went,
Yeah.
me, myself, and I,
Yeah.
that's a movie about
Yeah.
Rhode Island, because there's always a Rhode Island state trooper, and it's all about
Yeah.
that kind of vibe and that sort of like
They
feeling.
just say Rhode Island a lot more.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
What about you, Will? What are you sort of, where are you feeling about this?
I think I'm kind of feeling the same way, because as much as, you know, we say this all the time, I think Witches of Eastwick is the best of the three by far. But while it's set there and there's a lot of that feeling, there's not really a lot of the iconography. It could have, there's like 5 other states that we've done on this podcast it could have been set in.
Mhm.
So it's not core to its being. Whereas, you know, Jim Carrey's like literally wearing the Rhode Island State Police like uniform. It is core to who he is. Unfortunately, I don't know too much about Rhode Island landmarks and iconography, but since I got the uniform, I think it's got the most Rhode
And
Island
it weirdly
iconography.
feels like Canadian. I mean, I know Jim Carrey's from Canada,
Yeah.
but like, why they all seem like the police all seem like Mounties for some
That was
reason.
what I
Yeah.
thought, like just based on like the trailers and stuff too. I thought this was like
Yeah.
in Canada or something.
It very well could have, like, it could have easily been, but
Yeah, but the fact that it's not, and they do
Yeah.
establish Rhode Island,
yeah,
I that's where I'm leaning to, is that it feels the most like
fair.
of
I
Rhode
agree.
Island.
I can say that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's sort of going back to what I was saying with what Jim Carrey does. I find that Jim Carrey is very good at bringing heart even to ridiculous, and that, you know, you genuinely feel the love of, he loves Rhode Island. He loves being a Rhode Island state trooper. He loves,
Yeah,
you know,
this
that's
is like his whole thing.
He loves what it is, the small town of it all. It's like the biggest little state in the nation or in the union or whatever, you know, whatever he says. It's like, it's, even though that it is kind of like a road trip movie, the you never get away from the Rhode Island of it. And like, you're always cutting back to his guys, the troopers and the captain that cares about him and his like, and his sons, you know. It's just, it's kind of got that element, because I mean, at the same time, I could still say that, but the Witch of Eastwick is the one that at least is sort of like, has created a fake town, you know. It gives this full flavor to sort of what Rhode Island is. Whereas,
yeah, but like we said, I think that you could have set this like it could have been in Maine, like it could have been set on any broad stroke coastal town.
I think the fact that it wasn't set in Salem, like you said, I think that for me, I think is what's the nail in the coffin. Is you could have just put it in Salem.
Yeah.
Which is the same. It's New England.
For all the other wacky, insane shit you've done in this movie, I think just having it set in Salem would have further established their whole like witch thing, which they never really touched on. It would just add to that extra layer of like, oh right, Salem, they be witches. I get it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It would just immediately kind of like just explain away. Okay, yeah, right, no problem.
Right,
I get it. So okay. So we're gonna do it. I'm actually kind of happy about this. I think I like this. I like I said, I like.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna end up going with the Witches of Eastwick on this, but it makes, after talking it through, and which I will be talking about deeply in therapy, is how fucking crazy this movie is. I gotta call my mom and ask her if she's seen this movie. I mean,
it's I do. I want to ask my mum if she remembers watching this movie as well. But yeah, no. Okay, so there we have it. The official movie, the movie to officially represent Rhode Island here on the United States of a Movie podcast, at least until we come up with another Farrelly Brothers movie, probably.
No.
Dumb and Dumber, when Harry met Lloyd.
Because
we'll fight both of you. No,
it's going to be me, myself, and Irene. Now the thing is, when it comes to also rans, it's tricky. There wasn't a lot of choice when it came to Rhode Island, apart from, I mean, like, can you think? It's all of the. There was Dan in Real Life. I remember that was one. that that had been sort of talked about. But
Yeah.
everything else is like there were so many Farrelly Brothers movies that it was
Yeah.
kind of almost ridiculous, wasn't it?
I mean, I almost sent you guys. I just to be mean for Major Payne, which I sense again. Apologies to the Wayans, but I as punishment for that, I almost made you guys watch the oldest, dustiest movie I could find, which was High Society, which is Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra.
Would have been better than Osmosis Jones.
So much better in retrospect. The only reason I didn't pick it is because it's a remake of Philadelphia Story, which is better than High Society. But it was a musical, so I was like, oh, it would be funny to make you guys watch another 1950s musical that at least has Louis Armstrong in it.
There's one on this list that I'm just after relooking it again, called Other People's Money with Danny DeVito that I remember really liking when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised that you guys didn't make me watch The Conjuring.
The Conjuring, yeah. I don't know anything. I never watched any of those.
I'm not impressed.
That might be
the
that might be the best one. But
I don't care for the Conjuring films, but
I know there's something about Mary pops up on here, but I don't really. I mean, I know part of it.
To Florida and Whole Past as well, like you were mentioning. That's another Farrelly Brothers movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dumb and Dumber.
Not a ton to choose from. So
I mean, there's a few. I mean, like there's another horror movie X did. There's Evening, a 2007 drama with an insane cast. I'm seeing Claire Danes, Toni Collette, Vanessa Redgrave, Patrick Wilson, Meryl Streep, Glenn Close. What?
It's 103 Dalmatians, right?
As a young woman in her early 20s, cabaret singer arrives in the spacious Newport, Rhode Island. So there are still plenty of movies out there for. I mean, it was just we were kind of lost in the sea and the trees of the Farrelly Brothers movies, which are some of the most sort of like well known.
Yeah,
but I
think
think
never going back to that forest.
I think when we come back around to Rhode Island, I think maybe we sort of
be interesting.
We throw in some horror, we throw in some drama, and I think we'll throw in a dusty old movie. Sometimes your dusty old movie
making you guys watch High Society. Boom. You're gonna be
Sometimes
Bing Crosby
they are
heads by the time we're
surprising.
dead.
I thought you said like high anxiety, and I got really excited to watch that Mel Brooks movie.
Oh, when I was reading through the list, I saw it. I was like, high anxiety? Oh no, High Society. Oh man,
it's great.
Speaking of lists, before we started rolling, I finally busted out a map, and I have myself a list here of some of the states that we have not been to. Many to choose from. I think I am going to do a little blind one today. I'm not even going to choose. I'm just going to do random. I'm going to just put my pen down, see where we land. We land on Wisconsin.
Ooh.
Oh, cheeseheads, here we come.
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Okay, I know nothing really about Wisconsin. I have never been to Wisconsin. I just Googled it to figure out where it is. Okay, it's right up near the top. It's near Michigan, Iowa, and Minnesota. Okay.
True.
Wisconsin. I'm going to be learning about a new state that I've never been to. This is going to be interesting to me. I have no instinctual answer.
It's funny, we've done 30 plus of these episodes, and I can say honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I have learned absolutely nothing about any of the states that we've picked. I can barely remember 2 of the movies we talk about every episode. It's crazy.
I only remember 2. Everyone
at best, never 3.
I meet people and they talk about the podcast, or I'm talking about the podcast, and they go, oh, and they go, like, for example, this day, go, oh yeah, we did that. Which movies did you do? I go, this one, and
there's this awkward pause where I have to pull up the list of the podcast episodes on Spotify, and I'm like, oh right, and they've already.
I've had to do that so many times. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Hang on a second, please tell me. I've always wanted to watch this movie. Okay, so apparently maybe The Lake House, which is the Keanu Reeves song.
No.
I know.
I watched that movie on a date in theaters.
That's the one where he fucks the mailbox, right?
If only. Ed Gein the musical. Hold on.
Okay, this is going to be a random one for sure. I mean, we're going to have to dig deep and go in and just sort of like try and find some stuff. But yeah, we're going to Wisconsin next week, guys.
Woo!
So get your thinking caps on. I'll put a little indicator here so I know that we've done that state. There we go. Guys, what an interesting week. It was, I think, very funny that like we all just kind of accepted the 3 movies. None of us weren't in our corners. We're not fighting. We're like, it was like, okay, let's just see where we go with these movies. And I think the biggest revelation is The Witch of Eastwick
rules. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lukewarm, like even me, myself, and Irene, like was like, it's a movie I've seen so many times. I'm worried I'm gonna misremember it, or I'm not gonna like it anymore, because I do adore it. But it was a very lukewarm response to all of these. But the Eastes of Witchwick, the Witches of Eastwick was truly the most memorable thing that's happened to me all week.
Yeah, in such a weird way. And it's going to stick with you, much like it's stuck with us. And thank you for sticking with us. To all of you that watch us at home on YouTube, please drop a comment. That does help. We like to interact with you. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with other people as well. Tell your friends. Also, you can find us on our Facebook page, where we've been having a little bit of interaction with you guys as well, which has been fun. And on our Reddit, where people have been reaching out to let us know they've been watching The Wraith, which is fantastic. You should watch The Wraith. Maybe we'll do a special episode where we'll go back and watch The Wraith together. That'll be really fun.
Yes.
To everybody else though, please, you can always find me, my Monday videos as Ollie Pettigrew or That Englishman in Texas are always talking about this movie podcast and other movies as well. Will is always talking about movies. You can find him on his TikTok and his other Instagram, things like that, as Entitled Millennial. Ryan, he just, he doesn't do social media, man.
I don't.
He just.
I don't have time. I gotta watch 3 movies a week.
Yeah.
But he does have time to invent fake movies, do great movie posters. The Adventures of Pussman with Will Hirsch, which you can find on our Facebook page if you want to see.
The next big family.
Posted that? Oh boy.
Oh, I posted that. Yeah, like people want that already. But yeah, thank you to everybody for joining in on this adventure, coming along with us. Think about Wisconsin. We'll be back next week with another episode. So just take this time for Ryan, Will. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me for this podcast. And for everybody else that's at home, thanks for being here for this episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast.